Sunlight streamed in from the floor-to-ceiling windows, causing Li Wei's eyes to narrow slightly. He leaned back on the large leather chair, overlooking the concrete jungle below him. In Shanghai's CBD area, tall buildings are like swords, reaching into the sky. Each one is like an extension of himself, the empire of the Li Group, which controls half of the city's economic network from here. But today, this familiar scenery made him feel particularly depressed, like an invisible stone pressing on his chest, making him unable to breathe. "Mr. Li, the afternoon meeting has been arranged. Negotiations with East China Group at 3 o'clock. Assistant Jiming opened the door and came in, holding a stack of documents in his hand. His voice was as steady as ever, like a machine that would never make mistakes. Li Wei rubbed his temples and nodded. "I know. I turned down the dinner tonight, I'm a little tired," he said, looking out the window again. Tired? This word sounds so ridiculous. He works from morning to night every day, meeting, negotiating, and signing contracts, like a gear that never stops turning. But as I turned around, the empty space in my heart became bigger and bigger. Money? Right? These things are piled up in a mountain, but they can't fill the emptiness. It's like drinking a cup of coffee without sugar, and the bitterness goes straight into the heart. The door was pushed open again, and this time it was Hongwen, his old partner and best friend, who came in. Hongwen wears a crisp suit, a loose tie, and a cynical smile on his face. "Old Li, are you in a daze again? Those old foxes in the conference room are waiting for you to go to town." Li Wei turned around and forced a smile. "What are you trying to do?" "They hope I make some mistakes so they can get some benefits." He stood up, walked to the window, and put his hands in his pockets. "Hongwen, what do you want to do when you live? Do you work like this every day just for fun?" Hongwen came over, patted him on the shoulder, and said with a hint of ridicule in his eyes, "What are you after? Money, power, or women? But judging from your virtue, it is probably because you want to fill the emptiness in your heart. I advise you, don't be bored in this iron cage. Try some exercise, fitness, running, etc. Release the pressure and get back some of the passion of your youth. Don't tell me that you are too lazy to even sweat." Li Wei raised his eyebrows and turned to look at him. "Sports? It sounds like a child playing house. At my age, can I run out of breath after just 2 steps? Ouch, are you too old in your early 30s? Come on, listen to me." Hongwen took out his cell phone from his pocket and quickly sent a message. "I'll ask Jiming to arrange a membership in a high-end fitness center for you. It's specially designed for CEOs like you. The coaches will be one-on-one and will ensure that you won't be embarrassed." Li Wei wanted to refuse, but seeing Hongwen's seriousness, his heart softened. Maybe it doesn't hurt to try. At least, it's better than staring at the report every day. The afternoon meeting was as boring as expected. The representative of the East China Group was chattering away, and Li Wei became distracted while listening. After the meeting, Jiming handed over a Phnom Penh membership card. "Mr. Li, Mr. Hongwen arranged it for you. The fitness center is in Jing'an District, a high-end private club, and the coaching team is all professional. The first class will be at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning." Li Wei took the card and rubbed the smooth edges. "Tomorrow?" It sounded a little rushed, but he didn't object. When he came home at night, he lay on the large bed and stared at the ceiling. The feeling of emptiness came back, flooding his thoughts like a tide. Maybe Hongwen is right. It's time to move. Early the next morning, the sun filled the streets. Li Wei drove his black Bentley and parked in front of a low-key and luxurious building in Jing'an District. The fitness center looks like a modern art museum, with glass walls reflecting the surrounding high-rise buildings and luxury cars parked at the entrance. Jiming sent the detailed address and coaching information last night. Jing Qi, a senior sports coach, specializing in elite physical training. Pushing open the glass door, a breath of fresh air blows in, mixed with the faint scent of lavender. The receptionist smiled and guided him in. "Mr. Li, please come this way. Your coach is ready." In the locker room, Li Wei put on his sportswear and looked in the mirror. He usually wears suits and ties, but now he looks a little awkward, like a recruit who is going into battle for the first time. Feeling a little frightened, he took a deep breath and pushed open the training room door. The interior is spacious and bright, with flexible floors and various equipment hanging on the walls. The treadmill hums and a woman stands adjusting the machine. She turned around, her short hair was neat, and she was wearing tight sportswear, showing off her strong lines. Jing Qi is in her early 30s, with bright eyes that seem to be able to see through people's hearts. "Mr. Li Wei? I'm Jing Qi, your personal trainer." She stretched out her hand, her grip surprisingly firm. "I heard that this is your first time in a place like this. Don't be nervous, let's start from the basics." Li Wei nodded and tried to pretend to be calm. "Well, listen to my friend's advice. I hope it won't be too embarrassing." Jing Qi smiled, showing a row of neat teeth. "Embarrassed? This is a normal starting point. Many people are like this at the beginning. Come on, warm up first." Li Wei hesitated for a moment and shrugged. "Relax the pressure. I'm busy at work and always feel empty inside." "Empty? That's just right. Exercise can fill it up." Jing Qi patted the treadmill. "Come up, let's start with interval running. High intensity, short bursts. Follow my rhythm." Li Wei stepped on the treadmill and held the handrails. The machine starts and the belt rotates slowly. Jing Qi stood nearby with a clear voice. "Start and jog for 5 minutes. Take a deep breath and feel your heartbeat." It was okay at first. Li Wei's steps were steady, and the air was filled with the faint smell of rubber flooring, mixed with the saltiness of sweat. But soon, Jing Qi pressed the button and the speed increased sharply. "Speed up. Imagine that you are chasing a big business, and you can't stop at every step. Come on, take a deep breath, exhale. You are Mr. Li, in charge of the empire. How can you be defeated by this speed?" Her words were like a current flowing into Li Wei's mind. Chasing business? Yes, he is like this every day in the conference room, gritting his teeth and resisting. But his body refused to obey. His legs felt like they were filled with lead, and sweat slid down his forehead, blurring his vision. I can't help it, it's too fast." "No? Who said that?" Jing Qi came closer, her voice full of encouragement. "Look at me, Li Wei. Your body is screaming, but your heart knows you can do it. Think about those endless meetings. Didn't you make it through? Hold on for another 30 seconds. You are the winner." Li Wei gritted his teeth, images of the office and those tiring nights flashed through his mind. Her eyes were so determined, like a lamp, illuminating the gloom in his heart. He quickened his pace, his heart beating like a drum, and the emptiness in his chest seemed to be squeezed out bit by this rhythm. But at the last moment, his feet slipped and he fell forward, falling heavily on the edge of the treadmill. My knees hit the ground, burning with pain. Embarrassment suddenly surged into his heart. He wanted to get up, but found that his legs were as weak as noodles. Ouch! Jing Qi rushed over immediately, knelt down and held his arm. Her hands were warm and strong, and the touch felt like a warm current, relieving the pain. "Are you okay? It's a high-intensity first time. Many people are like this. Get up and take your time." Li Wei raised his head and met her eyes. There was no ridicule, only concern. He suddenly felt that this fall was not embarrassing, but rather like a signal. His body had been lazy for a long time, and so had his mind. In those years, he only focused on accumulating wealth, but ignored his inner cry. "Thank you. I don't usually exercise. My body is broken." Jing Qi pulled him up and patted his shoulder. "Definitely? No. You persisted for so long just now and you have already won the first step. Many people don't even dare to get on the plane. Let's take a rest and continue." At the end of the training, Li Wei was sore all over and his clothes were soaked with sweat. "But the strange thing is that the emptiness in my heart seems to be lighter." Jing Qi handed him a bottle of water, and the two sat on the bench in the rest area. The indoor air conditioner blew a cool breeze, mixed with the sound of distant equipment clashing. "Jing Qi, how did you become a coach?" Li Wei asked, his voice a little breathy. She smiled and looked out the window. I used to be an office worker. I worked overtime until late at night every day, and my heart was empty. Then I tried exercise, and it was like I found the key. Helping others find their passion has become my job. What about you? The life of a CEO sounds beautiful, so why do you feel empty? Li Wei was stunned. This was the first time someone asked him so bluntly. He looked at the water bottle in his hand, and the water droplets condensed on the bottle slid down, as if his defenses were melting. Scenery? Yes, it looks like it from the outside. But if you repeat it every day, you can't make enough money, but your heart is tired. It's like running a marathon that will never end. Jing Qi nodded with a gentle voice, then start today and change the track. Exercise is not just about the body, it can ignite the fire in the heart. Keep at it, and you will see a different yourself. Li Wei raised his head and met her eyes. At that moment, his heart opened slightly, acknowledging the emptiness. Not a weakness, but a starting point. He stood up, feeling the pain in his knees turn into energy. Okay, I'll stick to it. See you next time, coach. When I walked out of the fitness center, the sun was shining warmly on my body. Li Wei took a deep breath and held the phone tightly. Master-disciple relationship? Perhaps, from this moment, it really begins. He opened the car door, Jing Qi's words echoing in his mind. Come again tomorrow. Li Wei started the engine and the Bentley slid out on the streets of Jing'an district. The afternoon sun slanted through the car window, reflecting the beads of sweat remaining on his forehead, shining like diamonds. There was still a dull pain in his knee, but the pain was not as dull as the previous fatigue. Instead, it had a bit of piercing freshness, like the first snow in winter, reminding him that his body was still alive. The phone vibrated, and it was a message from Howen. How was it, the first class? You didn't make me cry, did you? Li Wei smiled and replied, it's not bad. We will continue tomorrow. He did not mention the embarrassing fall, but he had already decided in his heart that this was not a whim, but a new starting point. Early the next morning, Ximing knocked on Li Wei's office door, holding an adjusted schedule in his hand. Sunlight leaked in through the gaps in the blinds and sprinkled on the pile of documents on the table, like a network woven with golden silk threads. Mr. Li, I have moved your meeting time. Every Wednesday and Friday morning from 9 to 10:30 are reserved for fitness training. I will start the afternoon business negotiations half an hour earlier to ensure that you will not be late. Other times can be adjusted at any time. Li Wei took the watch and glanced at it. Those densely packed periods of time that originally locked him up like iron chains are now looser. Thank you, Ximing. Your assistant is more attentive than me. He patted Ximing on the shoulder, with a hint of relief in his voice. Ximing smiled and pushed up his glasses. Mr. Li, you seem to be more energetic recently. Exercise really helps. When we arrived at the fitness center, the air was already filled with the elastic smell of rubber flooring, mixed with the faint smell of disinfectant coming from the locker room in the distance. Jing Qi was waiting in the training room, wearing a simple gray sports vest. The muscle lines on her arms swelled slightly under the light, as delicate as sculptures. She handed him a pair of new running shoes. Yesterday's warm-up was good. Today we will add some basic physical fitness. Progressive, starting with core strength. Your physical foundation is not bad, but your endurance needs to be trained. Li Wei changed his shoes and stepped on the floor, feeling the elasticity of his soles like waves gently lifting him up. Progressive? Sounds like a business plan. He tried to joke, hiding his nervousness. Jing Qi blinked, and when she smiled, the corners of her mouth rose, like a spring breeze blowing across the lake. It's almost the same. Business is about brainpower, and this is about physical strength. But the core is the same. Take it step by step, don't rush. She took him to the mat area and stretched first. She gently pressed his shoulder with her hand and guided the posture. Relax your shoulders and take a deep breath. Imagine that you are signing a big deal, and every action is an investment in yourself. The training started with simple squats. Li Wei's legs still remembered the soreness from yesterday, but Jing Qi's tone was steady. like background music with a strong rhythm, guiding him to keep up. Sweat gradually seeped out, soaking his collar, and the air was filled with a salty smell. Next came core training, where she had him do planks. Hold it for a minute and feel the strength in your abdomen. Your empire is supported by your brain, but here you rely on your body. Li Wei gritted his teeth and persisted, his arms trembling, and the coolness of the floor came through his palms, like the cold reality testing him. But a minute passed, and he collapsed on the mat, gasping, "It's okay, he didn't fall down. Progress has been made." Jing Qi handed over the water bottle, her eyes flashing with approval. "Next week we will add push-ups. Team sports will also be introduced, such as basketball warm-ups to release stress. Remember, this is not torture, but reshaping." As the days passed, Li Wei's schedule seemed to be injected with new blood, and training became his weekly secret meeting. Ximing always prepares towels and supplies in advance, and occasionally plays some motivational music in the car, something like "The Tiger with Eyes," which makes Li Wei very happy. In business, he is still the iron-fisted CEO, with sharp eyes as sharp as a knife when negotiating. But after get-off work, he began to look forward to the training room behind the glass door, where the air was always so fresh, mixed with sweat and the sound of the collision of metal equipment, like another side of the city, hiding vitality. In the third week, the setback came. The training that day focused on upper body strength. Jing Qi demonstrated push-ups in front of the mirror, the movements were smooth, and all 10 were done in one go. "Here, you try. Start with the kneeling version, 5 is enough." Li Wei lay down, put his hands on the ground, and tried to imitate. For the first time, as soon as my chest left the mat, I couldn't hold it anymore and collapsed with a loud bang. The self in the mirror looked so clumsy, like a king who fell from the clouds. The second time, the third time. Sweat dripped on the floor, forming small puddles and making a subtle pattering sound. His arm hurt like fire, and he felt a sense of inferiority in his heart. "Mr. Li, can you not even do this little thing?" Those young employees could just do whatever they wanted, but he looked like a waste. "Stop." Jing Qi squatted beside him, her voice was calm and unhurried, like the gentle tide washing over the rocks. "It's not your fault. Muscle memory takes time. Get up and look at me." She pulled him to sit up and put her palms on his shoulders. The warm touch came through the thin sweatshirt, calming his beating heart. "Li Wei, how many failures have you experienced in controlling a billion-dollar business? Don't you get up every time? The same goes for push-ups. Your body is protesting, but it also wants to become stronger. Try it, take a deep breath, one by one. I'm here." Her eyes looked directly at him. There was no pity in them, only tenacity. They were like clear springs in the mountains, pure and powerful. Li Wei's heart moved. This woman is not just a coach. She knows what it's like to rise from rock bottom. The women he usually sees are either vain social butterflies or submissive assistants. But Jing Qi was different. She was like a fire, igniting his dusty fighting spirit. Not pity, but equal incentive. He took a deep breath and had an inner monologue. "Maybe, what I need is not the accumulation of money, but this feeling of being believed." The fourth time, he stood up. Although there was only one, his chest was 2 inches above the ground. Jing Qi clapped her hands. "Did you see that? That's your first win." Li Wei sat down and laughed, sweat dripping down his chin, salty yet sweet. From that day on, he began to appreciate her tenacity and regarded her as a source of strength in his heart. Training is no longer an obligation, but an expectation. At noon, Hongwen asked him to have a business lunch. The restaurant is located on a high-rise building in Lujiazui, with the sparkling waves of the Huangpu River visible outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, and the aroma of burnt steak and the mellowness of red wine floating in the air. The two were chatting about the contract while eating. Hongwen suddenly stopped his knife and fork and looked at him with squinted eyes. "Lao Li, what's happened to you recently? You look like a different person. There is light in your eyes. They were always gray before." Li Wei cut a piece of fillet and smiled. "It's not your exercise suggestion. The training is quite harsh, but effective. The pressure is not so heavy anymore, and my mind is clear. Hongwen laughed loudly and raised his glasses. Let me just say it. A CEO's life should not just focus on the money bag, but must be balanced. I heard that you found a female coach. How about it? She has a good character, right? He winked and teased. Li Wei's heart skipped a beat, but he pretended to be calm. Jing Qi? Very professional. It's not what you thought. But her smile and warmth flashed in his mind. He shook his head, but thank you for your push. Life does need some changes, and we can't always be the emperor. Hongwen nodded and his eyes became serious. Balance is the key. Laoli, make enough money, don't let it tie you down. Pursue something real, such as passion, or love. Don't wait until you are old to regret it. He took a mouthful of salad and continued, I see you have changed, keep it up. Woman, sometimes it is the key. After lunch, Li Wei drove back to the company. Hongwen's words were like seeds, taking root in his heart. Balance? Maybe it's time. 2 weeks later, the climax came. It was a sunny Friday. On the outdoor track of the fitness center, the sun shone on the green lawn. The air was filled with the fresh smell of earth and grass. The outline of tall buildings in the distance was blurred under the blue sky. Jing Qi designed her first challenge, a 1-kilometer race, interval sprints and recovery runs. This is an introduction to teamwork, she said. Imagine you are leading the team to sprint towards the goal. Do it independently and prove yourself. Li Wei stood at the starting point, his heart beating fast. The runway is surrounded by the hustle and bustle of the city, and the sound of cars can be heard faintly, like drums in the background. The whistle blew and he rushed out. It went smoothly at first, with the wind blowing across my face, cool as silk. But in the middle, my legs began to protest, my lungs felt like they were stuffed with cotton, and every step was as heavy as 1,000 pounds. Sweat blurred vision and dripped into eyes, stinging like needles. He wanted to stop, but the emptiness of the office and those endless nights flashed through his mind. But Jing Qi's voice echoed in her ears, you are the winner. Hold on. He gritted his teeth and quickened his pace. In the last 100 meters, the view is wide and the finish line is in sight. His legs were on fire and his chest was heaving violently, but he pushed through. When I stopped, my whole body was dripping with sweat, and my soaked clothes stuck to my skin, sticky and cold. The sense of accomplishment came like a tide, which I hadn't seen for a long time, like the shackles in my heart were broken. He bent over and propped up his knees, gasping for air, and a smile crept onto his lips. It turns out, this is what it feels like to be alive. Jing Qi ran over and handed over the towel, with bright eyes. Li Wei, you did it. You look like a champion. Her eyes met his, and at that moment, the air seemed to freeze. Her short hair was blown by the wind, her cheeks were slightly red, and there was an indescribable tenderness in her eyes. Subtle sparks flew up in his heart. Li Wei's heart beat not because of running, but because of the electric current in his eyes. He looked away awkwardly and rubbed the back of his neck. Ahem, good luck. Thank you, coach. If it weren't for you, I would have given up long ago. Jing Qi smiled and patted his back. It's not luck, it's you. Come on, wipe your sweat. How do you feel? I have never been so free. Li Wei straightened up, his heart surging. She was not just a motivator, maybe more. But he covered it up and blurted out, how about this, as a thank you, I'll treat you to coffee tonight. There's a nice one nearby, over there in Jing'an. As a celebration. Jing Qi was stunned for a moment, then nodded and raised the corners of her mouth, okay. How about 7 o'clock? As the sun set, Li Wei drove away, and the fitness center in the rearview mirror gradually faded away. The fire in my heart burned even brighter. The aroma of coffee may bring new stories. The afterglow of the sunset was like a thin layer of golden gauze, draped on the streets of Jing'an district. Li Wei's Bentley slowly parked in front of a small shop called Coffee Time. This place is low-key but exquisite. The glass windows are covered with green vines. There are a few wrought iron tables in front of the door, The rich aroma of coffee beans is faintly wafting in the air, mixed with the smell of freshly baked bread, which makes people feel relaxed and happy. He glanced at the rearview mirror. Jing Qi was sitting in the passenger seat. Her short hair was gently ruffled by the evening breeze, and the blush from training still remained on her face. She looked particularly vivid. "Here we are. I heard that this store is good and the environment is quiet." Li Wei opened the car door and tried to make his voice sound casual, but his heart felt as if he was being lightly scratched. After coming out of the fitness center, he thought about this celebration over and over in his mind. He thought it was just a courtesy, but he didn't expect that Jing Qi really agreed. Jiming sent a message at noon, saying that he had helped reserve a window seat and also arranged some small surprises. Li Wei didn't ask much, but now it seems that this assistant always understands his heart. Jing Qi got out of the car and stretched, her sneakers making a brisk crunch on the pavement. "When you smell this, you know it's authentic. Let's go, Mr. President, don't let me starve." She blinked, with a hint of teasing in her tone, dispelling the embarrassment in the air. Pushing open the store door, a warm current hit my face. The indoor lighting is soft, the coffee machine behind the wooden bar is humming, and the sound of grinding beans is as friendly as a whisper. The air is filled with the sweet aroma of caramel and the sourness of the Blue Mountains, mixing into a relaxing atmosphere. The waiter led them to a booth in the corner, and it was exactly as Jiming said. The seats were by the window. A small plate of handmade biscuits was already placed on the table, and there was a bouquet of wild flowers next to it. It was simple but added a bit of romance. Jing Qi raised her eyebrows. "This is a very thoughtful arrangement. Your assistant?" Li Wei sat down and smiled. "That kid Jiming is always nosy. Come on, take your order. What do you want to drink? Latte? Or American? Cappuccino, add some cinnamon." Jing Qi opened the menu, her eyes bright. "I like the warm and spicy smell, like the blood during training." The coffee came quickly, with steam rising, and the milk froth on the rim of the cup was painted with a heart-shaped pattern. Jiming's handwriting, Li Wei thought to himself. The two first chatted about today's training, and Li Wei mentioned the feeling of that kilometer race. To be honest, the moment I crossed the finish line, my mind went blank. It wasn't that I was tired, it was relief. It was like a heavy burden had been lifted off. Jing Qi stirred the cup, and the milk foam swirled under the spoon, making a slight sizzling sound. "It's good to be relieved. Many people come to me just for this reason. They are under great pressure at work and feel congested. Exercise is like a key, which can unlock the door." She took a sip, and the aroma spread instantly, sweet and bitter, straight into the heart and spleen. "What about you? Is there anything that made you passionate when you were a child?" The story behind the president sounds quite mysterious. Li Wei was stunned and rubbed the handle of the cup with his fingers. Childhood? He hadn't touched on this topic for a long time. When we meet people, we usually talk about business and profits. Who has ever asked these questions? But looking at Jing Qi's expectant eyes, he suddenly felt that there was nothing he couldn't say. He was domineering and always used to control the situation, but tonight, there was only the smell of coffee in her gaze, which made him want to take off his armor. "When I was a kid, my dad was a small factory owner, and my family was extremely poor. Growing up in an old alley in Shanghai, I could see him getting up early and working hard every day, and how fierce he was when discussing business. When I was 10 years old, his business failed and he was in debt. I hid in bed and listened to him and my mother arguing. I thought to myself, when I grow up, I want to be a big boss and let them live a good life." Jing Qi nodded with gentle eyes. "It sounds like an inspirational movie. What's the result? You built an empire and now you have unlimited glory." Li Wei smiled bitterly and looked out the window. The street lights gradually turn on, pedestrians rush around, and the pulse of the city is like a never-ending pendulum. Scenery? Yes, money rolls into money, and power rolls into power. But what's behind? It's as lonely as an empty city. My parents are gone, and the brothers have gone their separate ways. I stare at those numbers every day, like a robot. Everyone in the conference room compliments me, but when I go home, I am alone in the empty apartment. Jing Qi, do you think this is a win? His voice lowered. For the first time, he was not giving orders, but talking. The wall in my heart cracked open, and the air circulated, bringing a long-lost relaxation. Jing Qi put down the cup and tapped her fingers on the table. The wood felt cool to the touch. Win? It depends on how you define it. Before I became a coach, I was also lost. I was a white-collar office worker. I worked overtime every day until my eyes were red, and my enthusiasm had long been lost. Then I met a client, a boss level, who was so stressed that he had insomnia. I helped him start with running and regain his feelings step by step. It's not just about getting stronger physically, it's also making my mind feel better. From that moment on, I thought, this is my mission, to help elites like you find that fire. It's not about teaching movements, but it's about igniting something in your heart. Her words were like a warm current, following the heat of the coffee and seeping into Li Wei's chest. He looked at her, her short hair glowing softly under the light, and there was a firmness in her eyes that reminded him of the backs of his parents when he was a child, not weak, but supportive. Normally, he is always aloof and listens to others like a report. But tonight, he listened quietly, nodded, and occasionally interjected, "Your mission sounds very lofty. But for me, it is already working." The relationship has changed, from master and disciple's instructions to this kind of equal sharing. He felt that he was no longer the isolated CEO, but an ordinary person who could be understood. An inner monologue flashed through. It turns out that opening your heart is not a weakness, but a strength. Halfway through drinking the coffee, the vibrating sound of a cell phone suddenly rang in the air. Li Wei lowered his head and saw that it was Hongwen. The emergency mark danced on the screen. He frowned and answered, "Hey, Hongwen, what's going on?" On the other end of the phone, Hongwen's voice was urgent, mixed with keyboard tapping in the background. "Oldly, something happened. The East China Group has fallen out. They said there are loopholes in the contract and they will have a meeting to tear it up tomorrow morning. The stock is already falling. You have to go back to the company immediately and hold meetings all night to plan a counterattack. Don't delay, this is related to the entire quarter's performance." Li Wei's heart sank suddenly, his fingers clenched on the phone, and his mind flashed to the lights of the conference room and the table with piles of reports. The familiar pressure came like a tide. He subconsciously stood up and looked away from Jing Qi. "What's the loophole? Is Jiming here? Let him prepare the information. I'll be there in half an hour." Jing Qi noticed something strange and gently pulled his sleeve. Her touch was warm, like a breeze, blowing away the chaos in his mind. "Li Wei, sit down. Let's talk after the call is over." Her voice was low but firm, and she looked directly at him, pulling him back to reality like she did during training. Li Wei was stunned, the phone was still buzzing in his ear. He looked at her, and Hongwen's voice continued to bombard him. "Oldly, are you listening? This is not a trivial matter, it is the foundation of the empire." At that moment, Li Wei's heart was churning. In the past, he would rush back to the company and stay up all night to take control. But now, in front of him is Jing Qi's gaze, the scent of coffee lingering on the table, and the lights of the city outside the window. He took a deep breath, and his heart changed like lightning. "No, this time is different. The empire is important, but myself at this moment is even more important. Hongwen, listen. Jiming will deal with the vulnerability issue first, and I'll talk about it tomorrow morning. I won't go back to the company tonight, and let the team hold a meeting first to collect opinions. Don't worry, hold on." He hung up the phone, sat back down, and his shoulders relaxed, as if a heavy burden had been lifted. Jing Qi smiled, with surprise in her eyes. "You gave yourself priority? This is not like the style of a domineering president." Li Wei rubbed his brows and smiled on his lips. "Yeah, I used to think that work was everything. But tonight, after listening to what you said, I suddenly understood that passion is not something that can be obtained casually. You have to take the initiative. Thank you for giving me a hand." His eyes were much softer, no longer as sharp as in the conference room, but with a little warmth. At this moment, the relationship quietly changes. From the friend-like confiding, more possibilities are revealed. The cafe bell rang softly. It was 7:30. The two walked out of the store. The night breeze was cool, mixed with the aroma of street food and the low hum of traffic in the distance. The setting sun had completely set, and the street lamps cast an orange halo, illuminating the sidewalk and lengthening their shadows. Li Wei suggested, "Let's take a walk and eat. There is an alley near here, it's quite quiet." Jing Qi nodded and followed him. In the alley, the stone pavement was damp. It had just rained slightly, and the air was as fresh as if it had been washed. The two walked side by side, occasionally chatting about training plans, and there was no awkwardness in the silence. Halfway through, an electric car whizzed past, splashing water. Li Wei instinctively reached out to hold Jing Qi's arm to prevent her from getting wet. Her arms were warm and silky smooth to the touch. He didn't let go immediately, and she didn't pull back. The air seemed to freeze for a moment, and the sound of my heartbeat amplified in my ears. Embarrassment welled up, and Li Wei's fingers trembled slightly, like a young boy discussing business for the first time. He whispered, "Sorry, it's out of habit." But he was secretly happy in his heart. This moment of holding hands was like cinnamon in coffee, spicy yet sweet, indicating that something was quietly sprouting. Jing Qi turned her head, smiled, and said nothing. She just let her hand slide down naturally and gently touched his fingertips. At the end of the alley, the city lights were bright. They continued to move forward, their shadows overlapped, and everything seemed so natural in the night. The street light at the end of the alley lengthened their shadows, extending slowly like an ink painting. Li Wei and Jing Qi walked out side by side, the night breeze blowing across their cheeks, carrying the smell of oil smoke from street night market snacks, mixed with the moist smell of the Huangpu River in the distance. The two of them said nothing more. The brief touch of their fingertips was like a wisp of smoke, which seemed to be still there after it dispersed. He walked her to the gate of the community. When the car lights swept across her face, she turned around and smiled. "Thank you for tonight, Mr. President. Don't be late for training tomorrow." Li Wei nodded. The engine sounded low, and the Bentley slid into the night. He touched the steering wheel, and the warmth in his heart was still rippling. After returning home, Jiming sent a message, "Mr. Li, prepare water and towels for tomorrow's training. The coffee shop thing sounds good." Li Wei replied with a thumbs up, lying on the bed and staring at the ceiling. In the past nights, I had always been tossing and turning, with my mind filled with numbers and plans, but tonight was different, as if there was a little more expectation. Willpower? Perhaps, from now on, he has to learn to rely on himself, not his wallet. A few days later, the training escalated. Jing Qi was waiting for him at the door of the fitness center. The sun shone on her sportswear, reflecting the fine beads of sweat she had just finished warming up. The air is filled with the freshness of morning dew, mixed with the scent of grass and trees from the nearby park. "We won't be indoors today," she said, handing him a bottle of electrolyte water. "Go to the bun track and simulate a marathon. 5 kilometers, interval sprints and endurance tests. Your foundation is stable, and it's time to push the limit." Li Wei took the water bottle and glanced at the map. The Bund? There are many people in that place, the view is wide, there are many tall buildings, and the river wind is howling. His heart tightened. 5 kilometers? He didn't even bother to take a walk before, but now he's running like a madman? But looking at Jing Qi's firm eyes, he nodded. "Okay, give it a try. You can't just keep spinning in a cage." They drove to the Bund and stopped at the foot of the Oriental Pearl Tower. The runway is built along the river, the stone road is wet, and the wind blows from the river, carrying the salty smell of the tide and the low hum of the ship. It was just after the morning rush hour and there were few tourists. A few morning joggers were wearing headphones and walking briskly. Li Wei put on his running shoes and felt that the rubber on the soles of his feet was like a spring. It was full of elasticity but also reminded him, this is not a game. Start jogging and warm up for 1 kilometer. Jing Qi took the lead, walking steadily, like an elegant leopard. Her breathing was even, and her short hair was flying in the wind. Li Wei followed, and it was okay at first. The river view caught his eye, and the glass curtain walls of high-rise buildings reflected sunlight, which made his eyes narrow slightly. The wind blew across his skin, cool and powerful, like nature tapping his shoulder. But entering the second kilometer, the speed accelerated, and Jing Qi shouted, "Sprint for 30 seconds. Imagine you are at the negotiating table, gritting your teeth and withstanding the pressure of your opponent. Don't stop your legs, and be ruthless." Li Wei's lungs began to burn, and every step felt like stepping on cotton. Sweat slid down his back, soaking his clothes, making him uncomfortable. Fear surged in, his body screamed for surrender, and old habits flashed through his mind. When faced with problems in the past, he would spend money to solve them, find lawyers, and bribe his opponents. But now? No one can do this for him. On the third kilometer, his steps were messed up, his knees ached, his vision was blurred, and the river swayed in front of him, as if mocking his weakness. "Jing Qi, I can't hold it anymore, it's too long." She turned her head without slowing down, and her voice penetrated the wind. "Can't hold on? Who said that?" "Li Wei, look across the river, those lighthouses are indestructible day and night. The empire you built was also built step by step. It's not money, it's your will. Take a deep breath, count the steps, and win every step. Come, follow me." Her words were like a whip, rousing the fire in his heart. The inner monologue flashed briefly. "Yes, I used to rely on wealth to buy everything. But at this moment, there is no golden finger, only legs and heartbeat." He gritted his teeth and adjusted his breathing. The wind whistled in his ears, and his footsteps hit the stone slabs like war drums. The fear didn't go away, but it was suppressed. In the last kilometer, he actually surpassed Jing Qi by half a step. When he crossed the finish line, his whole body was on fire and he collapsed on a bench by the roadside, gasping for air. Sweat dripped onto the ground and formed a small beach. The salty smell mixed with the river breeze was particularly real. Jing Qi ran back, knelt down and handed over the water, with sweat on her forehead and a bright smile. 5 kilometers, perfect. I have never looked so bright in your appearance." Li Wei raised his head, met her eyes, and felt a transformation in his heart. It turns out that willpower is the trump card. Money can buy equipment and people, but it cannot buy this energy. He gasped and said, "Thank you. This feels like rebirth. I used to think that money can solve everything, but now I realize that it is the inner things that are solid." But the turn came suddenly. The celebration was not over yet. When they turned to the return path, Li Wei tripped under his feet. The wet moss in the cracks between the stone slabs was slippery. He fell forward, resting his right hand on the ground. The skin on his palm was scratched, blood oozed out, and his knees were bruised. The pain shot up like an electric current, so sharp that he gasped. "Damn." Jing Qi immediately supported him and pulled him to the shade of a tree by the roadside. Her hands were gentle but strong, and she tore open the first aid towel in her bag with skillful movements. "Don't move, I'll take care of it. Minor injury, scratched skin." She gently wiped the wound with sterile cotton. The sting of alcohol mixed with her body temperature, and the air was filled with the smell of medicine and the faint scent of lavender from her body. Li Wei looked at her, lowering her head, her short hair hanging down, covering half of her face, and her heart beat wildly. This closeness made his mind go blank. He wanted to reach out and touch her face, but he froze in embarrassment. "Does it hurt?" Jing Qi raised her head, her eyes close at hand, as gentle as river water. She moved closer, examining his knees, her breath caressing his skin, warm. The air solidified, and Li Wei felt that time had slowed down, and his heart surged. At this moment, he really wanted to close the distance and say the words he had hidden for a long time. But when the words came to his lips, he blushed and coughed awkwardly. "No. It's okay. Thank you, coach. You have everything in this bag, like a small medicine box." Jing Qi smiled, straightened up, and handed him the tape. "I'm used to it, there are always accidents in training. Get up and walk slowly. The moment of intimacy was like a bubble, and Li Wei felt regretful, but he also breathed a sigh of relief. Too soon, he thought. The two of them helped each other back to the car. The wound hurt slightly, but there was a hint of sweetness in the pain. In the afternoon, Li Wei asked Jiming to take him to the hospital for dressing and an injection. In the evening, Hongwen invited him to drink tea at a tea house near the company. The interior is antique, with the aroma of tea mixed with the calm smell of sandalwood. Hongwen held the celadon cup and squinted at the gauze on his hand. Li, what happened? Something happened during training? I heard that you and the coach were close. Could it be that the hero saved the United States but was saved instead? Li Wei stirred the tea leaves and smiled bitterly. Slip and bruise. Jing Qi handled it very professionally. He paused and couldn't help but confide. Hongwen, how do you grasp this relationship? She inspired me to become a different person, but I am afraid that speaking out will ruin this master-disciple relationship. Hongwen laughed loudly and slapped the table. Caught? Just confess your love. Brother, you two have already had a spark. Don't always think about money, women should be sincere. Remember my last deal? If you hesitate, you will miss it. Now that you have more willpower, you can use this energy to chase her. Make an appointment for coffee and make it clear. Don't wait until an embarrassing scene like a family dinner to regret it. Li Wei nodded, planting a seed in his heart. Hongwen's suggestion was like a strong dose of medicine, pushing him forward. The next day, the coffee shop became their routine again. During coffee time, the familiar aroma greets you, the sound of sizzling milk foam and the whispering voices of customers are intertwined. Li Wei ordered 2 cups of cappuccino. The wound was still wrapped in gauze. He sat down carefully. Jing Qi sat across from him and glanced at his hand. Is the injury feeling better? Don't train today, rest. It's okay, Li Wei smiled and changed the subject. Tell me about you. What dreams did you have before becoming a coach? I always feel that you are not just a job, but a passion. Jing Qi took a sip of coffee, and the spicy aroma of cinnamon made her squint. Dream? When I was a child, I wanted to be an athlete and run track and field. But my family has tradition. My mother Mingqi is an old-school person and always said that girls should be safe, find an office job, and marry a good family. She was under great pressure, and she kept saying, Qi, don't waste your youth by wasting your body. Later, when I quit my job to be a coach, she was so angry that she ignored me for a month. She is still trying to persuade me now, saying that I have been single for too long and that I need to go on a blind date. Li Wei felt soft when he heard this. Her eyes flashed with fatigue, as if she was entangled in a traditional web. He stretched out his hand and gently held her fingertips. There was no embarrassment this time. Jing Qi, your mother is doing this for your own good, but you have to walk your own path. Like me, I used to rely on money, but now I have learned to rely on myself. Your enthusiasm is worth $1,000. Don't let the pressure crush you and pursue your dreams. I support you. Jing Qi's hand was warm and she shook it back. Her eyes lit up. Thank you, Li Wei. You understand me. The emotion deepened at this moment, like the aftertaste of coffee, which lingers for a long time. The two talked about their dreams, and she said she wanted to open an exclusive training camp for elites. He shared his childhood ambition. There was a steady stream of people outside the window, and time flew by. But Li Wei didn't stop there. The next day, he used his golden finger to ask Jiming to contact the fitness center to upgrade the equipment, a new treadmill, a professional recovery instrument, and also donated the lighting system for the outdoor track. After Jing Qi heard about it, she saw the shiny equipment in the training room and was stunned. Li Wei, did you do this? He shrugged and pretended to be casual. Little things, to make training better. Didn't you say you have to push the limit? These can help. Jing Qi was touched, her eyes reddened, and she walked closer and patted his shoulder. Thank you, but remember, true love is not made of material things. It is the energy in your heart, like your will when you run 5 kilometers. Don't let money overshadow your true self, otherwise, our relationship will change. Li Wei's heart was shocked and he reflected a lot. She is right. In the past, he always used wealth to show his kindness, but now he realizes that real growth is to get rid of that shell. Inner monologue, maybe it's time to win her with sincerity. He nodded, understood. I will remember it. Next time, don't rely on money, rely on yourself. As the sun set, the lights in the training room came on, they packed up their equipment, and their shadows overlapped again. In the air, the smell of sweat faded away, leaving a faint feeling of expectation. The light in the training room softly shines on the equipment, and the salty smell of sweat is gradually diluted by the cool breeze of the air conditioner, leaving a tired but satisfying aftertaste. Li Wei bent down to pick up the last dumbbell, and Jing Qi passed the towel from the side. When their fingers touched lightly, there seemed to be a trace of electricity in the air. He straightened up, wiped his forehead, and tried to make his voice sound casual. Jing Qi, I heard that your mother has been talking about you being single recently. How about? I go to see her one day. Let's talk as friends. Jing Qi was stunned, her short hair swaying slightly under the light. She smiled, with a complicated look in her eyes. Meet my mother? She is very traditional, old-school Shanghai, and always feels that girls need to find a stable man to live their lives. You, the CEO, sound good, but she will probably find fault. But, okay, there is a dinner party on the weekend, and she insists on inviting me to come. Are you coming? Li Wei's heart warmed up and he nodded, come here. As proof that I am not just good at work. What he did not say was that this was his small trial, moving from the interaction in the training room to the test of reality. The two walked out of the fitness center. The night wind blew, mixed with the smoke of fireworks from street barbecues. The pulse of the city made him feel that everything was worth a try. The weekend family dinner is held at a traditional Shanghainese restaurant near Jing Qi's house. The place is hidden deep in the alley. The outer walls are covered with moss, red lanterns hang at the door, and the air is filled with the sweet aroma of braised pork and the crispy smell of scallion pancakes. When Li Wei drove there, it was already dusk, and the setting sun cast a long shadow on the shikumen. Jing Qi was waiting for him at the door, wearing a simple shirt and jeans, less sophisticated than sportswear and more gentle at home. Go in, my mother Mingqi is already inside. Don't be nervous, she's a nice person, but she has a tough mouth. Pushing open the door of the private room, a rush of hot air hits my face. The turntable in the center of the round table is filled with dishes, the sweet and sour pork ribs are shiny, and the crab meat dumplings in the steamer are steaming hot. Meng Qi is in her early 50s, with her hair neatly tied up, wearing a Cheongsam-style top, light makeup on her face, and her eyes as sharp as knives. She looked up at Li Wei and frowned slightly, but she still stood up and greeted him. Mr. Li, right? Sit down, Jing Qi said you are her student. Come and eat. Li Wei sat down, right opposite Meng Qi. Jing Qi put a piece of pork ribs into his bowl and tried to calm down. Mom, this is Li Wei, a client of my coach. He is busy, but he is very nice. The dinner started with small talk. Meng Qi asked about Li Wei's work, with a soft Shanghai accent in her voice. Mr. Li, I heard from Jing Qi that you are in charge of a big company and have business talks every day. That's very tiring. Our Chi-Chi is a coach, but she doesn't do her job properly. For a girl, what's the point of teaching people to sweat? We should have found an honest man to go home and take care of the children. Li Wei smiled, took a mouthful of xiaolong, and the hot juice scalded his mouth. He refrained from vomiting. Auntie is right, work is busy. But Jing Qi's coaching job is very meaningful, helping many people regain their vitality. I have benefited a lot. He tried to change the topic and talk about training, but Ming Qi's eyes became more and more serious, like inspecting a piece of goods. After 3 rounds of food and 2 rounds of wine, Meng Qi suddenly put down her chopsticks and stared at Li Wei. Mr. Li, you are not young, are you? You are over 30 and have a successful career, but Jing Qi said that you work overtime until late every day and don't even go home. What kind of life is this? Men have to be responsible. Heart, making money is for the family, not for yourself. What should you do if you are a workaholic? If you don't see anyone every day, will your child recognize your father? From a young age, I have taught her to be steady and find someone who can love others, not just count money. The air solidified instantly, and the heat in the private room seemed to become sticky, mixed with the sour taste of soy sauce. Li Wei's chopsticks stopped in midair, and his heart felt like being pricked by needles. Criticism? It's as straightforward as a Shanghai ant's talk. He glanced at Jing Qi. She lowered her head to pick up the vegetables, her face as red as a cooked shrimp. The embarrassment came flooding in, and he wanted to use money to resolve it, donating a fund to the community or something, but Jing Qi's eyes reminded him, no. Li Wei took a deep breath and said in a steady voice, Auntie, I understand what you mean. In the past, I really only focused on work and my life was empty, like a soulless machine. But recently, through Jing Qi's training, I am changing. Not on the surface, but in my heart. I will learn to take responsibility. Meng Qi snorted and shook her head. Change? It's easy to say. You CEOs talk more than you do. Qi told me, are you going to drink coffee? Is that a date? She has been single for so long, and I don't object to her finding someone, but it must be suitable. Like you, who is under a lot of pressure, how can you have time to accompany her? Don't hurt her for the rest of her life. After the words fell, Jing Qi finally raised her head. Mom, that's enough. Li Wei is not that kind of person, he. The dinner ended hastily, and Li Wei drove Jing Qi home. The silence in the car was like thunder. The streetlights swept across the car window, reflecting his tense face. My heart is churning. Persevere? Or retreat? Meng Qi's words poked at his weakness. Can he really balance love and work? When she arrived at the gate of Jing Qi's community, she said softly, I'm sorry, my mother did that. Don't take it personally. Li Wei stopped the car and turned to look at her. It's okay. But she is right. I have to think about how to prove myself. What he didn't say was that this was his turning point. Love is not as simple as conquering business, it has to face deep-rooted pressure. Before Jing Qi got out of the car, she shook his hand. Give yourself time. See you at training tomorrow. Early the next morning, Jiming was waiting for him downstairs in the company, holding hot coffee in his hand, with the Coffee Time logo printed on the paper cup. Mr. Li, I heard something from Miss Jing Qi during last night's dinner. I arranged a coffee meeting at noon, at Jing's house. At 2 o'clock, the window seat. Use it as a buffer and don't let the pressure suffocate you. Li Wei nodded and patted him on the shoulder. Thank you, Jiming. As an assistant, you always understand me. In the cafe at noon, the sun shines into the windowsill, and the aroma of coffee beans is as strong as ever. Jing Qi has arrived and ordered 2 lattes, with cinnamon powder sprinkled on the foamed milk. When she saw Li Wei come in, she got up and pulled him to sit down. Did you sleep well last night? Don't take Mom's words too seriously. She is old-fashioned and worried about me. Li Wei sat down, the hot breath hit his face. He stirred the cup and said in a low voice, You must be serious. She was right in her criticism. My previous life was indeed like a workaholic. When I went home last night, my mind was a mess. Jing Qi, what should I do? Stick to our relationship, or listen to her and don't drag you down. There was a rare hesitation in his eyes, like the exhaustion during training, which exposed the fragility of his heart. Jing Qi came closer, her hand gently covering his, feeling as warm as the heat of coffee. Li Wei, listen to me. My mother is traditional, but she was also lost. When I was a child, my father's business failed, and the family was too poor to eat. She took me alone and worked as a tailor, sewing from morning to night, and her fingers were covered with calluses. Later, before she married my father, she wanted to pursue her dream and learn painting, but she was under great pressure and humiliated. Got it. As a result, I regretted it for the rest of my life. She always told me, Qi, don't be like Mom and waste your youth. But I didn't listen. I resigned from my job as a coach just to avoid following her path. Growth is not about obeying, it is about finding your own way. What about you? From emptiness to running 5 kilometers, this is your transformation. Love tests us, don't give in, prove it to her. Use actions, not words. Her story is like a stream of clear water, washing away Li Wei's chaos. Short inner monologue, yes, she understands that struggle. He squeezed her hand and nodded, thank you. You always wake me up. I will do my best during training in the afternoon. It's not to prove to Auntie, but to myself. In the afternoon at the fitness center, Jing Qi upgraded her training to a difficult obstacle course. A simple track is set up in the outdoor venue, complete with rope nets, tires and climbing walls. The sun was dazzling, the air was filled with the smell of rubber and earth, and the noise of tall buildings in the distance was like background drum beats. Li Wei put on his sportswear. He still vaguely remembered the pain from the last scrape on his knee, but his eyes were firm. Come on, coach. Let me try my limit. The track started from the starting line. When Jing Qi's whistle sounded, he rushed out. As I shuttled between the tires, my footsteps hit the ground with a muffled sound. When I climbed the net, my palms were so painful that the ropes were as rough as sandpaper. Sweat slid down my arms, and salty eyes entered my eyes. But he got stuck in the middle of climbing the wall. The wall was 2 meters high, his foot slipped twice, and his muscles were so sore that they were on fire. Meng Qi's words, the label of workaholic, and Jing Qi's eyes flashed through his mind. The pressure was overwhelming, and he wanted to stop, gasping and leaning against the wall. Damn, it's too hard. Jing Qi shouted at the finish line, Li Wei. It's not the body, it's the heart. Think about last night's dinner. You are not a machine, you are a human being. Climb up and make your choice. Her voice penetrated the wind, like the encouragement at the beginning of training. Li Wei gritted his teeth and exploded in his heart. Yes, this is his battlefield. Money can't buy it. He took a deep breath, pushed his feet on the wall, grabbed the top edge with his hands, and with a push, he climbed up. When he landed, his knees hit the ground and pain surged up, but he felt a sense of accomplishment. He had done it. Running towards the finish line, Jing Qi met him. The two hugged each other for a moment, sweat mingled together, and the air was filled with the salty smell of victory. Did you see that? You exploded. Jing Qi gasped, her eyes bright. Li Wei smiled, it's all thanks to you. If you are determined, you can get through anything. In the evening, Hongwen called, and Li Wei answered the phone on the balcony of the apartment. The night breeze was cool and the lights on the river were twinkling. Laoli, did you hear about Jing Qi's mother? I made a private appointment with her for tea. Tell her that you are not a workaholic, but that you are changing. She listened and softened her attitude when she shared about your training. She said, it's fine that the kid is serious, but he has to prove it. The conflict was relieved, and my brother helped you. Li Wei Song said, thank you, Hongwen. You always provide timely help. After hanging up, he drove to the downstairs of Jing Qi's house. The night was deep and the lights in the community were warm and yellow. When she went downstairs, she was wearing home clothes and her hair was loose. What's up? Li Wei took her hand and said in a firm voice, Jing Qi, I struggled after the dinner. But during today's training, I understand, I support your relationship with your family, and I support us. No matter what Andy thinks, I will prove it with actions. Balancing work and love is not a dream, it is a choice I will make. Face it together, okay? Jing Qi nodded and leaned on his shoulder. The night wind blew by, carrying a faint fragrance of flowers. The shadows overlap, the test is still there, but the heart is close. The night was like ink, and the street lamps in Jing Qi's community cast dappled light and shadow. Li Wei's hand was still holding hers, and the warmth from his palm was like a warm current, slowly seeping into the cracks in his heart. He watched her loose hair swaying gently in the wind, and said in a low but firm voice, Jing Qi, from tonight on, I will not let work swallow up everything. Let's face everything together. She nodded, leaned on his shoulder for a moment, then gently pulled her hand away, and turned around to go upstairs. The Bentley's engine roared, and Li Wei drove away. Her figure in the rearview mirror became smaller and smaller, but she felt more at ease in her heart. Perhaps, this is the beginning of love, not vigorously, but step by step. A few days later, the business storm came. The Li Group's quarterly report had just been released, and the Huadong Group's contract loopholes had been patched, but a competitor, a consortium that had entered from Hong Kong, suddenly took action. They snatched away 2 big customers at a low price, and the stock plummeted by 3.5 percentage points during the session. The office was brightly lit, and Li Wei's conference room became a battlefield. The projector projected a red K-line chart, which was as dazzling as blood. Jing came in with black coffee. The heat in the cup was curling up and the bitter fragrance hit his nostrils. "Mr. Li, the draft of the new contract is ready. This Hong Kong company bids hard, but there are hidden terms. If we sign it, we may be tied to death for 2 years." Li Wei rubbed his temples, stared at the screen, tapped his fingers on the table and said in a rapid rhythm, tie it, stabilize the disc first. Have a meeting all night, give me a plan before 9 o'clock tomorrow. He should have thought of training. Today is Wednesday. Jing Qi sent a message early to remind, don't forget 9 o'clock, outdoor endurance running. But the phone rings one after another, assistants come in and out, and the time leaks like an hourglass. He glanced at his phone and thought, just for this week, reject it. The empire was shaking, and he had to hold on. Jing Qi waited for half an hour at the entrance of the fitness center. The sun shone on her sportswear and her short hair was slightly messy in the wind. She looked at the empty parking space and her heart sank. The phone vibrated with a message from Li Wei, sorry, we have something urgent to do. Training will be rescheduled for another day. She bit her lip and replied, again? You said you could balance after the last dinner, but now? There was no reply. She turned around and went in, the sound of the collision of equipment buzzing in her ears, but she couldn't hide the disappointment in her heart. Just like me back then, work swallowed up my passion, and I ended up feeling empty. She didn't want him to make the same mistake again. For 3 consecutive days, Li Wei's schedule was full. Between meetings, phone calls, and data analysis, the air in the office is as stuffy as a steamer, mixed with the scent of printer ink and the salty astringency of sweat. It was late at night when he returned home. The lights in the apartment were deserted and the sofa was piled with documents. At noon on the 4th day, Jing Qi called. He was brainstorming with the team, and his voice was tired. Hello, Jing Qi. Wait until I finish my work for a while, then I will train again. On the other end of the phone, her voice sharpened, like a whistle during training. Finished? Li Wei, what are you talking about? Last time in the coffee shop, you promised to change, but what happened? Business competition made you ignore everything and return to that empty CEO? Your empire is important, I understand, but what about us? Is this relationship what you meant by facing it together, or are you just pushing it? There was disappointment in her tone, mixed with the frankness of a Shanghai girl, which stung Li Wei's heart. He stood stunned at the door of the conference room, with the team's whispers buzzing behind him. Jing Qi, I didn't mean it. This is really serious. If we lose the customer, the group will be shaken. But when he said the words, he himself felt pale. My heart surged, she was right. He thought wealth could control everything, but he forgot that love takes time to grow. In the past, he felt empty because he neglected his heart. Now, if he does it again, Jing Qi will leave. He took a deep breath and softened his voice. You were right. I was wrong. Give me a chance to prove myself. See you at the coffee shop tonight? After hanging up the phone, Li Wei pushed open the door of the conference room and the team looked up at him. He rubbed his brows and said, the meeting is over. Ended early today. I have personal matters. When he walked out of the building, the sun was dazzling, and he felt like he had removed layers of shackles. Growth is not overnight, but the awakening at this moment. Career is the foundation, love is the branches and leaves, both are indispensable. He is no longer the man who only knows how to conquer, but a mature man who has learned to balance. During coffee time, the familiar aroma hits your face, the sourness of Blue Mountain beans mixed with the warmth and spiciness of cinnamon, making the air gentle. Jing Qi was already sitting at the window seat, and the latte milk foam in the cup collapsed slightly. She raised her head to see Li Wei, with a cold look in her eyes. Here? Tell me, how to prove it? Li Wei sat down and ordered an Americano. The bitterness of the black coffee went straight into his throat, like his reflection. He held her hand, his palm slightly cold. Jing Qi, I admit that it was my fault for ignoring you. Business competition is fierce, but I can't let it swallow up my life. I used to think that money and power were everything, but in the end, emptiness followed. Now, with you, I understand the meaning of balance. From tomorrow on, training will resume at a fixed time every week. No matter how busy the work is, squeeze it out. His eyes were sincere, people were rushing outside the window, and the pulse of the city seemed to bear witness for him. Jing Qi withdrew her hand, but softened her lips a little. All talk without practice? Li Wei, you have to take action. It's like training, restarting enthusiasm, starting from the basics. She paused, and her voice became gentle. I'm not angry, I'm worried. You've changed so much, don't let the pressure pull you back. Come, have a sip of coffee to warm your heart. With the aroma lingering, she came closer and patted his shoulder, like the encouragement in the training room. The air loosened, and Li Wei nodded, okay. Tomorrow morning, the Bund runway will restart. Thank you for reminding me. In the afternoon, Jiming knocked on Li Wei's office door, holding a stack of documents and an invitation in his hand. The fragrance of coffee still lingered in the air, and he smiled. Mr. Li, I have dealt with the aftermath of the dinner. Jing Qi's mother, Aunt Ming Qi, called and said that she was a bit harsh last time. Let me tell you, just be willing. She invites you to have a home-cooked meal next week. This time is to relax. By the way, I have arranged a small surprise, a picnic by the lake in Jing'an Park tomorrow. I have prepared a picnic basket with red wine, cheese, and sandwiches, all of which are Jing Qi's favorite flavors, so don't thank me. Li Wei was stunned for a moment, then laughed out loud. Jiming, your assistant is like a matchmaker. Thank you, I was really helpful this time. Jiming pushed up his glasses and said in a low voice when he exited, Mr. Li, you deserve a better life. In the evening, Hongwen invited him to the bar for a drink. The lights at the bar were dim, the oak aroma of whiskey was mixed with the faint bitterness of tobacco, and the background music was low jazz. Hongwen clinked the cup. Lao Li, did you listen to Jing Qi? Business storm? I understand, but don't let it ruin the relationship. I used to be like this too. I'll tell you the lessons of failed love. Do you remember my ex-girlfriend? Xiao Min, a literary girl. When we were in love, I was so excited every day. Work overtime every day and ignore her. As a result, she said I was like a robot and heartless. We finally broke up, and I regretted it so much. Money is made, but people are empty. Now I am single, but I have learned, love is not an elective, it is the main course. Commit to change, Lao Li, don't be like me and leave regrets. Hongwen's words were like a wake-up call. Li Wei took a sip of the wine in his glass, and the heat went into his throat. Hongwen, thank you. Your lesson is timely. I will not repeat it. From tomorrow on, I will reject the Hong Kong contract. Even if it is a short-term loss, I will prioritize my life. Hongwen patted him on the shoulder. Good job. You're mature, buddy. Early the next morning, on the Bund runway, the river wind roared, carrying the salty smell of the tide and the low hum of the ship. Li Wei and Jing Qi started side by side. The sun shone on the stone slabs, shining like gold. Jing Qi's pace was steady, and she shouted, jog to warm up, then sprint. Li Wei, this is a restart, don't let the emptiness come back. Imagine that your empire is not made of money, but built with your heart. Sweat gradually broke out, and Li Wei's legs were sore, but the fire in his heart was rekindled. He keeps up with the rhythm and his heart is determined. Balance, starting now. At noon, senior executives gathered in the conference room. The representative of the Hong Kong consortium wore a neat suit, and the contract terms were densely displayed on the projector. Li Wei stood up and said in a sonorous voice, everyone, this contract is sweet on the surface but poisonous on the inside. It will be tied to death for 2 years and the profit will be as thin as paper. We refuse. Short-term losses? It doesn't matter. The focus of the group's transformation is sustainability, not quick success. The representative was stunned. The team whispered, but Li Wei's eyes were sharp. The meeting is dismissed. Ximing, make an announcement. Walking out of the conference room, the phone vibrated. It was Jing Qi. Have you heard? Refuse the contract? I'm proud of you. He smiled and replied, for us. In the afternoon, picnic baskets were placed by the lake in Jing'an Park. The lake is sparkling, the wickers are waving gently, and the air is filled with the milky aroma of cheese and the acidity of red wine. Jing Qi took a bite of the sandwich and said with bright eyes, Ximing's surprise is good. You have really changed by rejecting the contract today. Li Wei poured the wine and touched the rim of the glass lightly. It's all your credit. Jing Qi, thank you for always motivating me. The sun was setting, and the lake light reflected their faces red. He leaned closer and caressed her cheek, her short hair feeling soft to the touch. The air was solid and my heartbeat was like a drum. She didn't retreat, her eyes were gentle. He lowered his head and touched her lips lightly, the first kiss, as sweet as red wine and as warm as the aftertaste of coffee. The world stops, only each other's breath remains. Love, at this moment, completely heats up. The lake light reflected Jing Qi's cheeks red, and the kiss lasted as long as red wine. When Li Wei's lips gently left her, her heartbeat was still beating in her ears. Their eyes met, the park's wicker brushed against the lake surface, making a fine rustling sound. The milky aroma of cheese in the air mixed with the smell of the sandwich in the picnic basket. It was as sweet as the accident of this moment. Jing Qi spoke first, her voice trembling slightly but with a smile. Li Wei, is this considered an improvement outside of training? He rubbed her short hair, a smile creeping up to the corner of his mouth. Forget it. From now on, I am your exclusive athlete. As the sun set, they packed the picnic basket, their shadows stretched long, and their fingers were still lightly intertwined as they drove away. As night fell, Li Wei sent her home, with this sweet turning point echoing in his mind. Love was no longer a distant luxury, but the fire he was holding in his hand. The days are like an accelerating treadmill, and training is at its peak. Jing Qi's plan was upgraded to include intensive classes 5 days a week, from core strength to aerobic endurance, pushing him to the edge in all aspects. The outdoor venue of the fitness center has become their battlefield. The sun shines on the rubber track, reflecting the dazzling light. The air is filled with the green smell of sweat and lawn. Li Wei's body shape has changed. The beer belly originally hidden under the suit has tightened, and the lines of his arms have bulged, like a reshaped sculpture. He is no longer the rookie who just arrived, but a man who can run 10 kilometers side by side with Jing Qi. You look like a professional athlete. Jing Qi handed him a towel after an interval training session, her eyes full of pride. Li Wei wiped the sweat from his forehead and laughed breathlessly. Thanks to you as a coach. I used to think sports were a pastime, but now I know that they are my second battlefield. A flash occurred in his heart. From a domineering president to this appearance, he has transformed. It's not the appearance, it's the heart, the passion that ignites the twin flames of career and love. In the company, after rejecting the Hong Kong contract, the stock stabilized and team morale increased. He learned to listen to his subordinates, and meetings became less authoritarian and more about brainstorming. Jing Qi's influence is like the cinnamon in coffee, spicy yet warm, making everything controllable. The fitness center's annual elite competition is here, the highlight of the high-end club, attracting CEOs, white-collar workers and sports enthusiasts from all districts in Shanghai. The event was held at the outdoor sports park in Jing'an District. The venue was wide and the auditorium was full of people. The buzzing noise in the air was mixed with the announcement from the loudspeaker and the aroma of the hot dog stand. Li Wei signed up for the individual comprehensive event, a 5-kilometer run plus obstacle challenge, with Jing Qi as his instructor. This is your peak test, she said outside the locker room before the game, putting her hand on his shoulder, the touch as firm as her eyes. Remember, you don't win against your opponent, you win against yourself. Imagine this as a negotiation table, and every step is a strategy. Li Wei nodded, his heart beating faster. At the starting line, he was surrounded by opponents from all walks of life, a young white-collar fitness fanatic with bulging muscles, a middle-aged entrepreneur with sharp wolf eyes. Gunshots rang out, and the crowd rushed out like arrows. At first, Li Wei's pace was steady. The river wind blew from the direction of the bund, carrying the salty smell of the tide. His footsteps hit the track and made a strong rhythmic thumping sound. Jing Qi shouted from the side of the road, "Save your energy and jog for the first kilometer. Take a deep breath and keep your mind calm." He followed, sweat sliding down his brows, and his eyes locked on the front. Here comes the obstacle course: tire piles, crawl nets, mud pits. The first opponent overtook him, and the white-collar man easily climbed over the net. Li Wei's palms were so worn that the rope was as rough as sandpaper, but he gritted his teeth. He couldn't stop. Jing Qi's training flashed in his mind, those times when he got up after falling down countless times. In the middle, fatigue hit me, my legs felt like lead, and my lungs hurt like fire. He slipped once in the mud puddle, and the muddy water splashed all over his sweatpants, which was sticky and cold. The audience's cheers were like ridicule. He wanted to give up and had a short inner monologue: "This is reality, you have to fight for career and love." But Jing Qi's voice cut through the noise. "Li Wei, get up. You are my partner, not the CEO, but a passionate man. Go!" He climbed out of the mud pit, shook off the mud, and his eyes were on fire. Sprinting for the last kilometer, he overtook the middle-aged entrepreneur. His steps were like wind, and the finish line was in sight. After a moment of rushing, the audience cheered, and he collapsed on the lawn, sweat mixed with mud, and the salty smell went straight into his nose. Jing Qi rushed over and hugged him. "We win. Looking at you, it's a win-win situation. Your career is stable and your heart is warm." Li Wei gasped and hugged her tightly, his heart transformed like a tide. In the past, he used money to conquer the world. Now, this victory proves that he is a passionate partner. When the trophy was handed over, the flash clicked. He took Jing Qi's hand and smiled at the camera. "Thank you to my coach. She taught me not only running, but life." When news of the victory spread, Jiming was the first to congratulate him. He was waiting for Li Wei at the door of the company, holding flowers and schedule in his hands. "Mr. Li, congratulations. For the celebration after the game, I coordinated the afternoon meeting and postponed it to tomorrow. Are you free in the evening? Go see Jing Qi's mother?" She sent a message and said she wanted to chat. Li Wei nodded. "Okay, thank you, Jiming. You always provide logistical support." Jiming smiled. "Mr. Li, you have changed, now you look like a family member." But family pressure returned. Meng Qi arranged an alternative dinner, not a home-cooked restaurant, but a get-together after a charity bazaar in her community. The venue is a community center in Pudong, with warm yellow lights, the sweet smell of homemade pastries and the tinkling of copper plates in the donation box filling the air. Meng Qi was wearing a plain shirt with a serious look on her face. She pulled Li Wei and Jing Qi to sit down. Surrounded by aunties chatting in soft Shanghainese, the topics ranged from vegetable prices to children's marriages. "Mr. Li, I spoke harshly at the last dinner," Meng Qi said, holding up the teacup with steam rising, "but I have to say, it's good for you to win the competition, but Jing Qi told me that you are still busy at work. I have been doing charity for 10 years, helping orphans and the elderly. Between girls and men, it depends on his heart. A CEO like you has a lot of money, but does he have a heart?" An embarrassing scene unfolded instantly. The ants around were whispering, and a fat ant took a mooncake and handed it over. "Shaoli, eat, don't be embarrassed. Meng Qi is doing this for Chi-Chi's own good. She always said, you go on a coffee date, but what about life? When a president marries a wife, he has to take care of the family." Li Wei's face became hot, like a blush during training. He glanced at Jing Qi. She lowered her head to stir the tea, her eyes complicated. My heart tightened. Here we go again, this traditional net is like an invisible shackle. But he took his time and learned to listen. Taking a deep breath, he put down his chopsticks and said in a sincere voice, "Auntie, I understand your worries. In the past, I only cared about money and ignored my family. Mother Jing Qi, you are like my mother, traditional but caring. I have heard about charity. I admire you for helping the community for so many years. It's not just about money, I really want to participate. Tell me, how can I help? Meng Qi was stunned, and her eyes softened. Participate? We have a fundraising party next month, and we are short of sponsorship. But it's not about spending money, it's about contributing. Li Wei nodded. Okay, I'll go. Be a volunteer and learn from your kindness. The ants around applauded, and the embarrassment dissolved into laughter. Jing Qi raised her head, her eyes brightened. Mom, look, he has changed. After the dinner, Meng Qi patted Li Wei on the shoulder. Boy, just be willing. Don't let me down. In the evening, Hongwen called with an excited voice. Lao Li, did you win the competition? You're awesome. Celebrate it, I'll treat you tomorrow. By the way, I would like to suggest, don't confront her head-on in family matters, be sincere. Like I advised you last time, love is a marathon, not a sprint. If you win Aunt Meng Qi, you will be stable. Li Wei smiled. Thanks, buddy. Your words are always timely. The joy of victory is shared in the cafe. During coffee time, the familiar aroma of Blue Mountain is fragrant and the milk foam is sizzling. Li Wei and Jing Qi were sitting at their old seats. He ordered 2 cappuccinos. The trophy was placed on the table, shining with gold. How do you feel about winning today? Jing Qi asked, her eyes as gentle as lights. Li Wei held her hand. It's like rebirth. A stable career and a passionate love. This turning point is all because of you. Jing Qi came closer and said in a soft voice, Li Wei, I fell in love with you. It's not a coach to a student, but a woman to a man. It started from the first day you persisted in running. Her confession was like the heat of coffee, going straight to her heart. Li Wei felt warm in his heart and kissed her forehead. Me too. From emptiness to now, it's all because of you. The lights outside the window were bright, and they embraced each other, filled with joy. After returning home, Li Wei was not idle. He asked Jiming to investigate Meng Qi's charity project, the Community Orphan Fund, which specializes in helping single-parent families. The next day, he went to the community center in person and donated 500,000 yuan. This was not to show off his wealth, but to provide real support. With his golden fingers, he built a small library and filled the shelves with children's picture books. When Meng Qi saw her, her eyes were wet. Boy, you are so attentive. I misjudged you before. Jing Qi is lucky to have you. Li Wei smiled. Auntie, thank you for your recognition. I have learned to listen, not just to business, but to the heart. The inner growth is like the second turning point. From domineering to gentle, he has won a family, and his love is more stable. At night, he sent a message to Jing Qi. Everything is fine. Let's keep running on our road. The night breeze blew from the balcony of the apartment, mixed with the moist breath of the Huangpu River in the distance. Li Wei leaned on the railing, and the screen of his mobile phone still lit up with Jing Qi's reply. Well, let's run down together. See you on the weekend, at the coffee shop? He smiled, put away his mobile phone, and the warmth in his heart spread like red wine. After the charity library matters were settled, Meng Qi's attitude softened a lot. She even said half-jokingly on the phone, Boy, don't just donate money, remember to take more walks with Qi Qi. Li Wei nodded in agreement, and this weekend's date became an opportunity for him to prove his balance. From the sweat in the training room to the embarrassment of dinner at home, he is no longer the robot who only knows how to work. Now, he wants Jing Qi to see that his love can be as steady and upward as the mountain road. On weekend mornings, the sun fills the streets of Jing'an district, and the aroma of Blue Mountain beans during coffee time is as rich as a layer of mist. Li Wei arrived 10 minutes early and ordered 2 cappuccinos. The milk foam was sprinkled with cinnamon powder, and the heat was rising. He watched the passers-by outside the window, and his heartbeat accelerated slightly. This was not the first date, but every time he saw her, he felt nervous like he was at the beginning of training, with a little sting of anticipation. The doorbell rang, and Jing Qi opened the door and walked in. She was wearing a light t-shirt and jeans, and her short hair glowed with gold in the sun. She smiled and touched his arm lightly as she sat down. "Good morning, Mr. President. You look so refreshed. Did your charity work go well?" Li Wei pushed the cup, and the aroma immediately hit his nostrils. "It went well. Aunt Mingqi also praised me for my heart. Come on, have a drink to warm me up. Are you free on the weekend? I want to celebrate in a different way. Not just sit and chat, but go for a walk in the countryside. I heard that there is a hiking trail outside Yangpu district for training and relaxation," he said, with a bit of teasing in his eyes, trying to hide the romantic calculation in his heart. Jing Qi blinked and took a sip of her coffee. The spicy aroma of cinnamon made her squint her eyes. "Mountain climbing? It sounds exciting. Are you not afraid of heights? You slipped on the bun track last time. This time, don't let me carry you down the mountain." She laughed, her voice clear and clear, like wind chimes ringing in her ears. Li Wei shrugged and pretended not to care. "What are you afraid of? With you as the coach, I can even finish 5 kilometers. Let's go, drive there in 2 hours. How about treating it as romantic training?" Jing Qi nodded, her eyes softened a lot. "Okay. Romance and exercise, just what I want. Pack your backpack and bring water and energy bars. Remember, this is not about playing, it is about deepening. Both body and mind have to climb up." The two chatted while drinking, from training plans to recent game memories. The bitter and sweet taste of coffee echoed on the tip of the tongue, like their relationship, layer by layer. When they walked out of the store, Li Wei held her hand, as natural as breathing. Jing Qi did not pull away, but gently shook it back. The Bentley slid into traffic, and the city's tall buildings gradually faded away. The scenery outside the window changed from reinforced concrete to lush green countryside. The air was as fresh as washed, mixed with the faint fragrance of soil and wild flowers. The hiking trail on the outskirts of Yangpu winds among the hills, starting from a pine forest. The sunlight leaks through the gaps in the leaves and dapples the stone steps. The air is cool, and the fragrance of pine needles mixed with the gurgling sound of the distant stream makes people feel relaxed and happy. Li Wei followed Jing Qi with a small bag on his back, his footsteps making a crunching sound on the fallen leaves. "Start walking slowly and warm up for 20 minutes. Jing Qi led the way, with a professional rhythm in her voice. "Imagine this is your business path, and every step is steady. President of Shanghai, what's the point of climbing a hill?" Li Wei responded with a smile, but when he reached the middle of the mountain, the height began to cause trouble. The view is wide, with winding roads and the outline of the city in the distance below, the tall buildings as small as toys. When the wind blew, the edge of the cliff under his feet made his heart tighten and his legs became weak for a moment. He was afraid of heights when climbing stairs when he was a child, and he never had the chance to face them when he grew up. This fear was like a shadow hidden in his heart, and now it was pulled out, stinging like a needle. "Jing Qi, stop. I'm a little uncomfortable." Li Wei leaned against the rock, sweating on his forehead, and his palms were so sticky that he couldn't hold the water bottle. A high sense of oppression surged in, and thoughts of the stable desktop in the office and those controllable meetings flashed through my mind. He took a deep breath, but his chest felt tight. "I can't, it's too high. Go down, pretend I didn't mention this idea." Jing Qi turned around, squatted in front of him, and pressed his knees with her hands. The touch was warm and strong, like the encouragement in the training room. "Li Wei, look at me. Fear is not the enemy, it is the starting point. Remember the first day you fell on the treadmill? You wanted to run then, but now? 5 kilometers pass easily. This top of the mountain is like our love. There are obstacles, but when you climb over, you have a full view. Take a deep breath, count the steps, and win every step. I am here to give you a hand." Her eyes looked directly at him, with no pity in them, only determination. The wind ruffled her short hair, and her cheeks were as red as the morning glow. Li Wei's heart beat wildly, not just because of the height, but because her words hit his weak spot. A brief flash in his heart, yes, from emptiness to victory in the game, he overcomes it step by step. The same is true for love, family pressure and career crisis have to be faced. He nodded and held her hand. The heat from his palm was like an anchor, steadying his shaking. Okay, try it. For you and for myself. Jing Qi pulled him up and they continued walking side by side. The stone steps are steep and the gravel underfoot is slippery. Every step is like a test of will. Sweat slid down his back, soaking his clothes, which were sticky and smelled of earth. In the last section, the iron chain handrails on the edge of the cliff were cold. His hands trembled and he clenched them. Jing Qi whispered beside him, "Hold on. Imagine that the wind on the top of the mountain is the taste of freedom. Your empire rises from the bottom, this fear is the same. Finally, the peak is in sight." He took a deep breath and rushed up the last few stairs. The wind was howling, and his vision suddenly opened up. He could see the entire Shanghai countryside, the river was winding like a silver ribbon, and the high-rise buildings shone in the distance. Li Wei laughed out loud, turned around and hugged Jing Qi. "I did it. It feels like conquering the world." She hugged him back, her laughter echoing in the wind. "No, it's about conquering yourself. Obstacles in love can also be overcome like this." The joy at the peak was like sunshine, melting his fear. The two sat on the floor and ate energy bars. The sweet and salty taste was mixed with the salty sweat of victory. Everything was so real. When we returned to the city, it was already dark. The Bentley drove onto the elevated highway, and the lights of the city lit up like a galaxy. Li Wei's hand was still holding Jing Qi's, and his heart surged. This trip is not only romantic, but also a deepening of dependence. They support each other, like footsteps on the mountain road, both are indispensable. When he got downstairs at home, he kissed her forehead gently. "Thank you for pulling me up the mountain. Next time, we will go to a higher place." Jing Qi smiled. "Yes, together." But the joy didn't last long. Early the next morning, the air in the office was as sultry as before a storm. Ximing opened the door and came in. His face was ashen and he held a report in his hand. The edges of the paper were soaked with sweat. "Mr. Li, something big happened. That consortium in Hong Kong is not just a competition. They are targeting you personally, spreading rumors that there is corruption within the Li Group and that your assistant team is involved. The stock has dropped another 4 points, the media is speculating, and there will be a press conference tomorrow." Li Wei's heart sank, staring at the red letter on the report, his mind buzzing. Opponent? This conspiracy was like a hidden arrow, hitting his weak spot. He rubbed his temples. Who did it? Find out. Ximing nodded. I'm already investigating. Preliminary findings indicate that it's their public relations company, hiring trolls to fuel the flames online. Mr. Hongwen also contacted him, and he said he had an insider. At noon, Hongwen rushed into the conference room, his suit rumpled and his eyes as sharp as knives. "Old Li, this is not a trivial fight. They dug up your old background and said that you had a shady background in the acquisition. Ximing found out that they bribed a former employee and spread false evidence. I teamed up with a few old partners and came up with a counterattack plan, first issue a statement to clarify, and then expose their loopholes. Money is not an issue, use a team of lawyers to suppress it." Li Wei stood up and patted him on the shoulder. "Thanks, buddy. Let's go to the meeting." The team assembled, the projector projected data, and the keyboard beat sounded like a war drum. Jing Qi's message vibrated on her phone. "Have you heard? Don't hold on, I'll wait for you at the fitness center. Let's chat at the cafe tonight." Her support was like a ray of light, shining into the chaos. Li Wei replied, "Okay, it's up to you." In the afternoon, Ximing made a breakthrough in his investigation. He came in with 2 cups of black coffee, and the bitter aroma hit his nose. "Mr. Li, we caught the tail. The former employee is false evidence, and we have recordings to prove it. Their conspiracy is to force you to bow down and sell the East China contract. Hongwen has teamed up with the media to fight back tomorrow." Li Wei nodded, and his heart turned. The crisis is as high as a mountain, but with a team in Jing Qi, he is no longer alone. Growth, from relying on wealth to relying on favors. At night, the coffee hour lights are soft and the hum of the coffee machine is like a whisper. Jing Qi had ordered 2 cups of latte. She pulled Li Wei to sit down and put her hand on his. Tell me, what's wrong? Your eyes are red, you look like you haven't slept. Li Wei stirred the cup, and the milk foam swirled and made a slight sizzle. Business conspiracy, the opponent is targeting me. I feel like I fell into a mud pit and can't climb out. Jing Qi came closer and whispered. In Wenru, it's like mountain climbing. When fear comes, just climb step by step. Hongwen and Jiming are here, and you are not alone. I support you, not as a coach, but as your partner. Remember, we depend on each other. You give me strength, I give you enthusiasm. Her words were like the wind on the top of the mountain, blowing away his haze. Li Wei nodded, his heart warmed, and his heart surged. Yes, from fear to conquest, this is their path. Under the light, he suddenly blurted out, Jing Qi, if I propose, will you agree? He blushed as the words came out. This was a rehearsal, embarrassing but sincere, like a mistake in training. Jing Qi was stunned and her eyes lit up. Li Wei, you. But the doorbell dinged and Ming Qi opened the door and came in with a bag of fruit in her hand and a Shanghai aunt's gossip smile on her face. Qi, I'm passing by and came to take a look. Hey, Li Xiaozi is here too. What are you talking about, so intimate? The embarrassment broke out in an instant, the air solidified, and the fragrance of coffee was mixed with the sweetness of fruits. Li Wei coughed, and Jing Qi blushed and pulled her mother to sit down. Mom, it's okay, let's eat some fruit. Meng Qi narrowed her eyes. Proposal? Boy, are you serious? Don't worry, we still have to discuss it at home. Interrupted by an accidental slip, but Li Wei felt something in his heart. This embarrassment prompted him to speed up. When sending Jing Qi home, he whispered, the rehearsal failed, but the real plan will come soon. Thank you for making me brave. Jing Qi squeezed his hand. Well, let's face it together. In the night, the lights of the city flickered, and their dependence stretched like a mountain road. The night breeze blew from the door of the cafe, mixing with the smell of oil smoke from street snacks and the roar of the subway in the distance. Li Wei held Jing Qi's hand, and the two walked side by side among the lights of Jing'an district. Meng Qi's sudden appearance was like a basin of cold water, dousing the heat of the marriage proposal preview. She looked at them both with squinted eyes, muttering, we still have to discuss it at home, as embarrassed as the gossip of neighbors in an old Shanghai alley. When Li Wei sent Jing Qi to the gate of the community, she hugged him gently and said in a low voice, don't take it personally when mom is like that. She is traditional, but she knows it well. Good night, Li Wei. He nodded, and when he drove away, her figure in the rearview mirror became smaller and smaller, but something seemed to block him in his heart. This obstacle to marriage seemed to be more difficult than a business crisis. Early the next morning, the sun shone into the office, and Jiming came in with hot soy milk. There was white steam on the paper cup, and the fragrance was mixed with the crispy fragrance of fried dough sticks. Mr. Li, morning. I heard Miss Jing Qi mention something about the coffee shop last night. I helped inquire about Aunt Ming Qi. After she came home last night, she angrily complained to her relatives, saying that you, the CEO, were too playful and not worthy of her precious daughter. I suggest you don't rush to propose, and stabilize the family first. Li Wei rubbed his eyebrows, stared at the report on the table, and his heart sank. Steady? Ming Qi's traditional concepts are like the deep-rooted old Shanghai vines, making people breathless. He nodded. Thank you, Jiming. Let's arrange a dinner for this weekend. Home-cooked food. I have to make it clear in person. Jiming smiled and pushed up his glasses. Understood. I'll contact Miss Jing Qi and choose the Nanxiang restaurant that her mother likes to go to. The soup dumplings there are authentic and the atmosphere is relaxed. On weekends, Nanxiang restaurant is hidden deep in the old street, with red lanterns hung at the door, and the air is filled with the delicious aroma of crab meat soup dumplings and the heat of the steamer. When Li Wei arrived, Jing Qi and Meng Qi had already sat down. The turntable in the center of the round table was filled with dishes. The braised pork was shiny with oil, and the rice dumplings made with fermented rice were sweet and greasy. Meng Qi was wearing a simple sweater, no makeup on her face, and her eyes were as sharp as knives. She put a piece of meat into Jing Qi's bowl and glanced at Li Wei. "Here you come? Sit down and eat." The meal was peaceful at first. Li Wei tried to talk about the charity library and said in a steady voice, "Auntie, the bookshelf donated last time has been installed, and the children in the community are very happy. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to help." Meng Qi snorted and tapped the edge of the bowl with her chopsticks. "It's good to work hard, but Jing Qi is my only daughter. You, the CEO, are so busy at work, how can you have time to accompany her? I heard that you are going on a mountain climbing date. Romance is romantic, but marriage is not a child's play. When a Shanghainese marries a wife, she must be stable and have a solid foundation in the family. She is not just flying around every day." Jing Qi lowered her head to pick up the vegetables and blushed. "Mom, don't be like this. Li Wei is changing. He refused the bad contract and balanced his work." But Meng Qi became angry, like the old Shanghai aunt's business temper, and raised her voice. "Change? It's easy to say. Your father left early, and I pulled you by myself and worked as a tailor until my fingers bleed, just to let you live a good life. Now, you quit your white-collar job to become a coach, and I tolerated it. But this man? The president is enjoying the scenery, but what's behind him? The pressure is so great that I can collapse at any time. What if he gets busy and leaves you alone? Break up? Then the disease in my heart will last a lifetime." After the words fell, the heat in the private room seemed to have solidified, and the steam from the soup dumplings was still curling up, mixed with the sour taste of soy sauce. Li Wei's heart sank suddenly, his chopsticks stopped in midair, Jing Qi's smile and the sweat in the training room flashed in his mind. This conflict is like a battlefield. What he faces is not business failure, but the fear of losing her. The emptiness will return, deeper. The inner transformation is like a tidal wave. You can't throw money at it, you can't be overbearing, you have to prove it with actions. He took a deep breath, put down his chopsticks, and said in a sincere voice, "Auntie, I understand your worries. Jing Qi is not an object, she is my light. She inspires me to crawl out of emptiness, and I will not let her down. Give me time and prove it with actions, not words, but actions." The dinner ended hastily. Meng Qi rolled up her sleeves and left, leaving Jing Qi to awkwardly apologize to Li Wei. "I'm sorry, she has been under a lot of pressure recently, her old house needs to be repaired, and her business is not going well." Li Wei held her hand, his palm warm. "It's okay. Let's face it together." On the way back to the city, the fear in his heart turned into determination. Prove it from now on. During Monday's training, the indoor venue of the fitness center was brightly lit, the equipment buzzed, and the air was filled with the elasticity of the rubber floor and the salty smell of sweat. Jing Qi's steps were more chaotic than usual. When she demonstrated squats, her movements were stiff and her eyes were filled with fatigue. Li Wei followed and tried to joke, "Coach, be gentle today. My knees still remember the pain from the last game." But Jing Qi suddenly stopped and squatted on the mat, her shoulders shaking slightly. Tears fell down and landed on the floor with a tiny patter. "Li Wei, I can't hold it anymore. Mom was thinking again last night, saying what if I leave with you and my family's business collapses. The small tailor shop she used to open has few orders now and the roof is leaking. I advised her to close it, but she refused to listen. She was afraid that if my marriage to you broke up, how would she survive alone?" Her voice was choked, like panting during training, revealing the pressure inside her. The strength of Shanghai girls was shattered at this moment. Li Wei felt a pain in his heart, squatted down and hugged her, wrapping his arms around her shoulders, feeling as warm as the steam of coffee. "Jing Qi, don't cry. I understand your pressure. The net of traditional family is tight. But we are not running away, we are facing it." He patted her back gently, and his heart surged. Comfort is not empty words, it must be acted upon. He whispered, "Tell me, what's wrong with your mother's business? There are few orders? Then I'll help. It's not charity, it's cooperation. The Li Group has a clothing supply chain. I'll fund the upgrade of equipment and find new customers. Let her store expand and become a brand. In this way, she feels at ease and we are stable. Jing Qi raised her head. Eyes red. Li Wei, you really want to help? He nodded, really. Ximing will do it tomorrow. To resolve the embarrassment, start at home. She stopped crying and smiled, thank you. You can always wake me up. The training continued, but the air became loose, like the freshness after sweat evaporates. In the afternoon, Ximing knocked on the office door, holding a stack of documents and a glass of iced Americano in his hand. Water droplets condensed on the wall of the glass, and the coolness hit his face. Mr. Li, I checked Jing Qi's mother's tailor shop. The shop is in an old alley, specializing in cheongsams and suits, and its customers are aging. Funding plan: donate 500,000 yuan to upgrade machines, and work with the group's fashion department to promote online orders. Auntie will not refuse, and I have made an appointment with her for afternoon tea tomorrow. Li Wei nodded, bravo. By the way, arrange a secret coffee meeting. Tonight at 8 o'clock, coffee hour backdoor booth. Let Hongwen persuade Ming Qi. He is sweet-tongued and persuasive. Ximing smiled, I understand. Mr. Hongwen has informed him, saying, I will take care of it. I will support Lao Li's happiness. In the evening, Hongwen waited for Ming Qi in a secret booth in the coffee shop. The aroma of the Blue Mountains was strong, the lights were dim, and he was holding 2 cups of cappuccino with cinnamon sprinkled on the foamed milk. Aunt Ming Qi, sit down. I heard from Jing Qi that your tailoring skills are top-notch, so I should ask you to make my suits. Ming Qi sat down with alert eyes. Mr. Hongwen, are you Li Wei's friend? Tell me what you have to say. Hongwen smiled and came up. With a down-to-earth accent, he said, Auntie, I understand your heart. My daughter is a treasure, and I am afraid that she will suffer hardship. I have been partnering with Li Wei for 10 years. He used to be a workaholic, as empty as a soul. But when Coach Jing Qi came, he changed, running, mountain climbing, win the game and refused to break the contract. It's not pretending, it's true transformation. Marriage? Li Wei said, prove it with actions. Funding your business is the first step. Auntie, I admire your tradition. But times have changed. Love is not arranged in old Shanghai, but supports each other. Give him a chance, okay? Ming Qi stirred the cup, steam rising, and she was silent for a long time. You have a sweet mouth. But I got to watch him do it. Hongwen nodded, just watch, Auntie. He won't let you down. Hongwen's lobbying was effective, and Ming Qi's attitude softened a bit. But the crisis did not end, and the public competition on the eve of the climax came, the Shanghai Elite Marathon, a 10-kilometer road race along the Huangpu River, attracting media and entrepreneurs. The arena was lively, the auditorium was packed with people, and the air was mixed with the oily aroma of hot dogs and the salty river breeze. Li Wei signed up, and Jing Qi was the instructor. On the starting line, he was wearing a sportswear with the logo of the Li Group. His eyes were firm. This is proof, for you, for Auntie. The gunshot rang out, the crowd poured out, and the footsteps hit the road like thunder. Jing Qi shouted from the side of the road, slow pace. Save effort in the first 5 kilometers. Li Wei followed, sweat dripping down his forehead, his eyes locked on the sparkling river. But in the middle, there was a crowd at the corner, and he stumbled. His opponent accidentally collided with him, and he fell forward. His knees hit the ground hard, blood seeped out of his sweatpants, and pain shot up like fire. The screams started, the media cameras focused on him, and the flashbulbs clicked. He gritted his teeth and tried to crawl, but his legs gave out and he fell down. A flash of fear, hurt. The game is ruined, where is the proof? Jing Qi rushed over the guardrail, knelt beside him, pressed her hand on the wound, and her voice trembled, Li Wei. Hold on, the doctors and nurses are coming. Don't move, I'm here. Her eyes were red, tears were rolling, and the smell of blood in the air was mixed with her lavender fragrance, which made him feel at ease. When the doctors carried him onto the stretcher, Li Wei held her hand tightly and gasped, Jing Qi. I'm sorry, it's ruined. She shook her head and leaned close to her ear. Ruined for what? It was an accident, but you ran 7 kilometers, which proved that it was enough. Let's get through this together, not to win a prize, but to be together. The ambulance whistled away, the media was excited, Hongwen and Jiming arrived, Meng Qi also appeared, with a pale face. Boy, how are you? Li Wei was on the hospital bed, wrapped in gauze, smiling. Aunt, skin injury. Jing Qi is watching over me, I am stable. Meng Qi nodded, her eyes softened. Silly boy, don't be brave. Jing Qi, Mom supports you. The second twist is like tide, injury is not defeat, it is the beginning of protection. The two vowed to whisper in the ward, no matter the crisis, we will be together. Li Wei's heart surged, he was ready for the final reversal, using his golden fingers to resolve everything and win perfection. But outside the hospital, the shadow of the Hong Kong consortium is still there. Jiming sent a message, Mr. Li, they took the opportunity to push back, saying that you are poor and the group is unstable. Hongwen is fighting back, but you have to fight in person in the final battle. Li Wei looked at the night outside the window, held Jing Qi's hand, and felt a fire in his heart. The reversal will start tomorrow. The smell of the hospital's disinfectant still lingered on the tip of his nose. Li Wei leaned on the hospital bed, his knees wrapped in thick gauze. The dull pain seemed to remind him that this accident was not the end, but a new beginning. The night was dark outside the window, and the lights of Shanghai were twinkling like a sea of stars. Jing Qi sat beside the bed, holding his hand gently. The warmth in her palm was like a painkiller, making the fire in his heart burn more steadily. Li Wei, the doctor said that after a week's rest, you can go to the ground. Don't be anxious, take your time to fight back. She whispered, her short hair swaying slightly under the light, her eyes full of worry and determination. Li Wei smiled and squeezed her hand. Why are you so anxious? This injury reminds me that life is not just a sprint, but a stamina. When I leave the hospital tomorrow, the first thing I will do is to deal with the Hong Kong consortium. They want to play dirty, and I will fight back with fairness. His voice was low, and his mind had already turned away. Goldfinger wealth is not a show-off, but a weapon. Jiming opened the door and came in, holding a tablet and hot porridge in his hands. The porridge was fragrant, mixed with the soft and glutinous smell of rice grains. Mr. Li, the investigation is clear. There are loopholes in their public relations company and financial fraud. Mr. Hongwen said that the acquisition of their parent company will be settled once and for all. Li Wei nodded, took the porridge spoon, and said with steam, okay, let's do it. Jiming, you join the team of lawyers and draft a plan overnight. An announcement will be made before the market opens tomorrow. On the day I was discharged, the sun filled the hospital corridors and the air was as fresh as a new beginning. Li Wei was on crutches, and Jing Qi helped him get into the car. The Bentley's engine roared and slid into the traffic. In the office, the team was waiting. The projector projected the financial chart of the Hong Kong consortium, with the red loss line like a cliff. Li Wei sat down with pillows on his knees and said in a sonorous voice, everyone, this is not a defense, but an offense. Are they spreading rumors and trying to shake the foundation of the Li family? Let's acquire their parent company, China Investment. Jiming, use the group's funds, pay a 30% premium, and make a mandatory offer. Hongwen, you are in charge of the media and expose him. They give false evidence. Hongwen stood up from the side, his suit was straight and his eyes were shining with excitement. Old Li, you are awesome. This is a refreshing move. My partner of 10 years, I have witnessed your transformation from a workaholic to a god of war. Let's go. Applause rang out in the conference room, keyboard tapping sounded like war drums, and the air was filled with the bitter aroma of coffee and the premonition of victory. The acquisition took place at lightning speed. As soon as the Li Group's announcement was released, the stock market was shaken, and the Hong Kong consortium's share price plummeted by 50%. The legal team had solid evidence and exposed the recordings and financial black accounts of their hired navy. The media headlines exploded, Li's counterattack, the domineering president acquires his opponent. Li Wei watched the live broadcast in the office. Reporters swarmed on the screen. Hongwen patted him on the shoulder. Old Li, what a reversal. Their boss was so scared that he flew away last night. Now, the parent company signed the signature and it is on the table. Li Wei nodded, and his heart surged. From crisis to conquest, this is his growth, not throwing money, but strategy and will. Jing Qi sent a message. Heard? I'm proud of you. But remember, don't try too hard, the wound is not healed yet. He smiled and replied, don't worry, for you and for us. After the refreshing victory, Li Wei didn't stop. He turned to Jiming and said, in addition to business, I also take care of Jing Qi's affairs. I invested in the expansion of her fitness center. 2 high-end training rooms were introduced, international equipment was introduced, and an elite club was built, specially designed for presidents like me. Jiming pushed up his glasses and took notes quickly. Understood. Mr. Li, is this a romantic investment? The budget is large. Less? Li Wei rubbed his knees and smiled. Start at 10 million. Tell Jing Qi that it is not charity, but support for her dream. She helped me find my passion, and I helped her expand her career. Jiming nodded and whispered as he exited, Mr. Li, you look like a family man now. Mr. Hongwen said, you have transformed. He witnessed the whole process, from emptiness to this. When Jing Qi heard about the investment, she was stunned in the fitness center. The lights in the equipment room were bright, and the smell of sweat in the air faded away. She turned around and hugged Li Wei. Li Wei, this is too big. My center is always small. He patted her back gently, and the touch was as warm as a training mat. Small? The enthusiasm is worthy of a big event. After the expansion, you can help more people, not just me. Jing Qi's eyes lit up and she nodded. Mom, I know it will make me more motivated. The turning point of the family dinner came during this craze. Meng Qi made an appointment at her home in the old alley. The wooden table was covered with home-cooked dishes, the steamed fish was fresh and tender, the braised eggplant was shiny, and the air was filled with the warm aroma of onions and ginger and the soft glutinous rice. When Jing Qi opened the door, Meng Qi had already put on an apron, her face was no longer serious, and there was some hesitation in her eyes. Li Wei came in on crutches, carrying a basket of fresh fruits and a certificate from a charity fund. Auntie, here we are. I heard from Jing Qi that your store's orders have come in. Meng Qi took the basket and snorted, but the corners of her mouth raised. It's come a little bit. Li Xiaozi, have you heard about your investment? The center is expanding, and Qi is very happy. I was originally worried that you only knew money, but now I see that you have a heart. The meal started with the dishes. Meng Qi put a piece of fish into Li Wei's bowl and said in a much softer voice, last time in Nanxiang, I spoke harshly. Aunt Shanghai, you have a hard mouth but a soft heart. I'm afraid that Qi will suffer. Your acquisition of that company was broadcast on TV. Very domineering. But not as empty as before. Li Wei smiled and said sincerely, Auntie, I only cared about the empire and ignored my family. Now, Jing Qi teaches me how to balance. If you connect with the supply chain, new fabrics and machines, your business will double. It's not money, it's sincerity. Accept me, okay? Meng Qi was silent for a long time, tapped the edge of the bowl with her chopsticks, and finally nodded. Boy, I can see the sincerity. Qi chooses you, Mom accepts. Tradition is the root, but times have changed. Let's have a good time together. Jing Qi's eyes were wet and she hugged her mother. Mom, thank you. The meal turned into laughter, the air loosened like a spring breeze, and the embarrassment turned into warmth. Li Wei felt relieved, the family has passed. Growth starts by conquering obstacles. The joy of victory continues in the cafe. During coffee time, the sour aroma of Blue Mountain beans is tangy and the milk foam is sizzling. Li Wei and Jing Qi were sitting in their old seats, with the setting sun slanting on the windowsill, lengthening their shadows. He ordered 2 cups of cappuccino, sprinkled cinnamon powder on them, and said with steam, Jing Qi, looking back on this journey, from the first day I fell on the treadmill to the successful acquisition and family reconciliation, it's like a marathon. Jing Qi took a sip, the spicy aroma entered her throat, and her eyes were gentle. Yes. You have changed from a domineering president to a passionate man. The sweat during training, the talk in the cafe, the fear of mountain climbing. Fear, awkward dinner. Every step makes me fall in love with you deeper. Emotions are running high, Li Wei. We conquered all obstacles. Li Wei held her hand and felt heat in his palm. Thank you. Ximing executes the plan, and Hongwen witnesses the growth. He said, I am finally alive. The two looked at each other and smiled, emotions in the air surged like tides. He leaned closer and kissed her lips, as sweet as the aftertaste of coffee. The lights outside the window began to turn on, and their road stretched toward the end. The second turning point occurred at the Shanghai International Marathon. This is an annual event, with a total length of 42 kilometers, winding along the Huangpu River, attracting runners from all over the world. A week before the competition, Li Wei's knee was fine, and Jing Qi trained rigorously, running intervals every day and getting massages at night to recover. There was a sea of people at the starting line, and the air was mixed with the smell of hot dog grease, the salty river breeze and the whispers of excitement. Li Wei was wearing a running suit with the Li's Jing Qi Fitness logo. Hongwen and Ximing were waving flags in the audience. Meng Qi also came, with the pride of a Shanghai ant on her face. Boy, run more steadily. Jing Qi came closer and kissed him on the cheek. Remember, this symbolizes a comprehensive transformation. It's not about winning time, it's about completing the whole journey. For us. Gunshots rang out, and the crowd poured out like a wave, and their footsteps hit the road like thunder. For the first 10 kilometers, Li Wei kept a steady pace, with the river sparkling in his eyes and the wind blowing coolly on his cheeks. But in the middle section, at 20 kilometers, my knees ached from old injuries, my muscles were sore and swollen like fire, my vision was blurred by sweat, and my eyes stung with salty astringency. His opponent was overtaking and he wanted to stop. Crisis, dinner, investment, all obstacles flashed through his mind. But Jing Qi's voice echoed in his ears, one step at a time to win. He gritted his teeth and exploded in his heart. This is the last step of transformation, from body to soul. In the last 10 kilometers, raindrops poured down and the road was as slippery as mud. He stumbled twice and fell once. His knees were scraped and his blood was mixed with rain. But when he got up, Hongwen shouted, Laoli, hold on. Witness your growth. Ximing handed the water. Mr. Li, come on. The end was in sight, and the crowd cheered like waves. He rushed through the arch and completed the whole journey. The time is not top-notch, but for him, it is a victory. Jing Qi was the first to rush forward and hugged his soaked body. The rainwater fell down her face, mixed with tears. Li Wei, you did it. You have completely transformed. I am proud. Li Wei gasped and hugged her back, feeling like a surge in his heart. He conquered the marathon and also conquered life. Meng Qi came closer and patted him on the shoulder. Boy, good job. Mom didn't accept it in vain. Hongwen and Ximing gathered around, their laughter echoing in the rain. The setting sun breaks through the clouds and illuminates the riverside, and everything moves towards a perfect ending. Li Wei looked at Jing Qi and whispered, our journey has finished the starting point, and now is the hug at the end. She nodded, her emotions were high, and their love was as strong as a marathon. The rain was still dripping on the arch at the end of the marathon, and the hug between Li Wei and Jing Qi lasted for a long time amid the cheers of the crowd. Hongwen rushed up, patted Li Wei on the back and laughed. Old Li, your marathon is like a business merger, turning around all the way. Come on, brothers, celebrate. Ximing handed over a towel and a hot water bottle, while Meng Qi wiped the corners of her eyes. The voice of a Shanghai ant rang out, boy, there is no shame. Mom will make you some chicken soup when you go home. The sunset emerged from the clouds, and the air by the river was as fresh as a wash, mixed with wet soil and the low hum of distant ships. Li Wei looked at Jing Qi's wet short hair, and the blood in his heart was still boiling. This run is not only a physical victory, but also there's, from emptiness to determination, hand in hand all the way. A few days later, the fitness center's end-of-training celebration kicked off at the outdoor square in Jing'an district. As the sun sets, the lights shine on the green lawn, and the air is filled with the smoke of barbecue and the aroma of beer. The participants sat around a long table, and Jing Qi's expansion plan had begun to take shape. The new equipment was shining brightly in the exhibition area, attracting many elite white-collar workers to stop. Li Wei was leaning on a cane, his knees were not fully healed, and he stood side by side with Jing Qi. She was wearing a simple sports skirt, her short hair was slightly messy in the wind, and her smile was as bright as a lamp. "Everyone, thank you for your support." Jing Qi raised her glass with a clear voice. "From the small center to today, this is the result of the enthusiasm of the team." "Li Wei, can you say a few words first?" Li Wei took the microphone and scanned the crowd. Hongwen and Jiming blinked and applauded in the audience. He cleared his throat and said in a steady voice, "I was originally a workaholic, and my life was so empty that I felt like I had no soul. Jing Qi's training helped me regain my passion, from falling on the treadmill to the finish line of the marathon. This is not just about getting stronger physically, but also about the transformation of my heart. Thank you all for witnessing my growth." The audience burst into applause, and Jing Qi whispered in his ear, "Well said. See you at the coffee shop tonight." He nodded, feeling warm. This celebration is like their milestone, indicating an infinite future. But at the end of the celebration, an uninvited guest broke in. When the crowd dispersed, a man in a suit and leather shoes pushed forward, with a fake smile on his face and sinister eyes like a wolf. His name is Jing Qi. He used to be Li Wei's business rival. He was defeated in the merger and acquisition case. He also pursued Jing Qi several times in private, but failed. Jing Qi held the wine glass and approached Li Wei. "Hey, Mr. Li, you are a marathon runner. I heard that you acquired that mess in Hong Kong and you are so famous. But what about in private?" "Coach Jing Qi, I heard that Mr. Li used money to create your relationship. Expansion Center 10 million sounds romantic, what's behind it?" Li Wei is used to being domineering, and sooner or later he gets tired of it. "Remember when I was chasing you, he was robbing people?" His words were like poisonous arrows, stabbing at the embarrassment. Several participants nearby murmured, and the air suddenly solidified. Jing Qi's expression changed, and she held Li Wei's arm tightly, but did not speak. Li Wei's heart sank. The provocation from his old love rival was like a recurrence of an old injury, but he didn't get angry like before. Taking a deep breath, he smiled and said in a steady voice, "Jing Qi, long time no see. Back then, you lost the business through mergers and acquisitions. Now, this is a private domain, so don't interfere. Money? It's to support Jing Qi's dream, not a business. Want to destroy it? You have no way." Jing Qi sneered and raised his voice, "Support? I posted a post online, saying that Li used unfair means to win the marathon and bribed the referee. Jing Qi, do you believe him or the evidence?" He shook his phone, and the fake chat history flashed on the screen, and the lies filled the air like smoke. The conflict broke out suddenly, and Li Wei's mature attitude was revealed at this moment. He did not rush to retort, but took Jing Qi's hand with firm eyes. "Jing Qi, let's go. Such a little trick is not worth a fight." But Jing Qi did not move. She turned to stare at Jing Qi. Her voice was calm. "Jing Qi, when you chased me, I refused, not because of Li Wei, but because of your insincerity. Now, you attack with lies? Evidence? Let me see." She took the phone, quickly took a screenshot, and then sent it to Jiming. "Assistant, check the IP and records. If it's fake, it will be revealed sooner or later." Jing Qi's face froze and he wanted to snatch the phone back, but Hongwen suddenly appeared and stood in front of him. "Brother Chen, are you playing dirty tricks? Lao Li is my brother now. This trick of yours is outdated. I have insider information. Your public relations company has been targeted by us for a long time. Let's go, don't be embarrassed." Jing Qi retreated angrily. In the aftermath of the celebration, this conflict was quickly revealed like a temporary cloud. The turnaround came quickly. Jiming investigated overnight and sent evidence at noon the next day. Jing Qi's post was from a troll, the chat records were PS, and the IP was traced to his company. Jing Qi and Li Wei teamed up to send a clarification in the coffee shop's WeChat group, attaching a lawyer's letter. Jing Qi's lies collapsed and he publicly apologized. Online public opinion reversed and praised Li Wei's maturity. Jing Qi leaned on Li Wei's shoulder, the smell of coffee lingering. Li Wei, you are not impatient, this is growth. I trust you, from the beginning. He kissed her forehead, joining hands is strength. Old rivals? Little waves, can't stop our tide. At this moment, love is stronger than steel, and the shadow of emptiness has completely dissipated. Li Wei's inner monologue, in the past, I would spend money to retaliate, but now, I use trust to resolve it. This is the gesture of a partner, inspiring and warm. In the afternoon, the perfect date arranged by Jiming came as scheduled. He prepared everything on the yacht by the Huangpu River. The deck was filled with candlelight dinners, the seafood platter was bright red, and the fruity aroma of red wine mixed with the humidity of the river breeze. The setting sun shines on the water, making the waves sparkle like diamonds. Li Wei helped Jing Qi get on the boat, and Jiming waved at the dock. Mr. Li, enjoy. Good night. The yacht sailed out slowly, and the river gently lapped the hull, making a soft rhythm. Jing Qi smiled in surprise. Jiming, this kid, is as romantic as an idol drama. What about you? Are there always surprises on the CEO's dates? Li Wei poured the wine and touched the rim of the glass. Surprises are the future. Our dream, tell me? Jing Qi took a sip, the wine slid down her throat, and warmth surged up. I want to expand the center, open branches, and help more elites find passion. What about you? Li Wei looked at Jiang Jing and said in a soft voice, the empire is stable, I want to balance it. Start a family fund to fund traditional businesses like your mom's. And, our kids, little runners. Jing Qi blushed and leaned into his arms. Yes, let's dream together. The date ended under the stars. They hugged each other and looked at the river, and the future unfolded like a scroll. In the evening, Hongwen called, and his voice was excited and a little emotional. Laoli, Jing Qi's matter was handled beautifully. Final advice, once your love is stable, don't forget your roots. Like me, I ignored my family before, but now I regret it. Cherish Jing Qi and take time to run and chat with her every day. Being mature is not about winning the world, but about protecting your homeland. Your journey from emptiness to this is very inspiring. My buddy has witnessed the whole process. Li Wei smiled, thank you, Hongwen. I will take your words to heart. After hanging up, he sent a message to Meng Qi, Auntie, are you having a party tomorrow? A warmer home. The next day, a family gathering was held in Meng Qi's old house in the lane. The wooden door creaked open, and the sweet aroma of braised pork and the deliciousness of steamed crab filled the air. Meng Qi was wearing an apron, her face was full of smiles, and she was no longer embarrassed as before. She pulled Li Wei into the door. Boy, are you here? Sit down while Mom makes soup. Jing Qi, serve him some rice. At the round table, the dishes were turning, and Hongwen and Jiming also came to join in the fun. Jiming brought a fruit basket, and Hongwen carried wine. The meal started with small talk. Meng Qi put a piece of meat into Li Wei's bowl. You worked really hard in the last marathon. Mom watched TV and was moved. That bastard Jing Qi, dare to bully my daughter? Fortunately, you joined forces and Mom supported it. Jing Qi smiled. Mom, now it's okay. Li Wei has changed and matured like an elder. Meng Qi nodded with gentle eyes. Yes, Shanghainese are traditional, but you proved it. I wish you all the best to get married soon and give me grandchildren. Li Wei's face turned red and his heart surged. This is warm and feels like home. From the embarrassment at the dinner to the laughter now, the second turn is perfect. He raised his glass. Auntie, thank you. From now on, I am a son. The party ended with cheers. The lights in the alley were warm and yellow, and the shadows were lengthened. There was no suspense and preparations were complete. When Li Wei sent Jing Qi home, the night breeze was cool, and she leaned on his shoulder. Li Wei, all this is like a dream. But you have got rid of the emptiness and become my inspirational partner. He nodded, and his heart was completely calm. Yes, from domineering to gentle, from emptiness to fulfillment, this journey has been worth it. Tomorrow is a new starting point. The lights of the alley were still lingering in his mind. When Li Wei drove Jing Qi home, the night breeze came in through the gap in the car window, mixing with the scent of osmanthus in the old street and the smoke of fireworks from the barbecue stall in the distance. She leaned on his shoulder, her voice as soft as the river water lapping at the pier. Li Wei, I'm so happy that my mother was like that today. From the embarrassment at the dinner to the laughter now, everything is like a dream. He reached out to hold her hand, and the warmth from his palm made him feel stable. No, it's a dream, it's what we run out of step by step. Jing Qi, give me a chance to make this dream become forever, okay? When the car stopped at the gate of the community, he took out a small velvet box from his pocket. Inside was a simple platinum ring, set with a small diamond, as low-key but shining as a coffee bean. Jing Qi's eyes instantly became wet. She nodded and tears fell from her eyes. Okay, let's run down together. A few months later, the autumn wind in Shanghai was a bit cool, and the leaves were rustling on the streets of Jing'an district. During coffee time, the aroma of blue mountain beans is stronger than before, as if they were specially roasted for this day. There was no usual noise in the shop. The coffee machine behind the bar hummed quietly, and the sound of grinding beans was as steady as a heartbeat. Li Wei and Jing Qi chose this place as their wedding venue, not because of the pomp and circumstance of a luxury hotel, but as the starting point of their story. There were countless conversations there, and the milk foam remained warm after sweating. The simple arches are decorated with vines and wild flowers. The wooden tables are arranged in long strips and filled with handmade cookies and fruit tarts. The air is filled with the warmth of cinnamon and the sweetness of flowers. The sun shines slantly outside the window and reflects on the glass, like a layer of golden gauze draped over this small world. Meng Qi arrived early, wearing a light blue cheongsam, her hair neatly tied, and holding a basket of homemade osmanthus cakes in her hand. She walked into the store, glanced at the decoration, and couldn't help but raise the corners of her mouth. Qi, this place is nice and down to earth. It's not like those big hotels that are so vain. Jing Qi came out of the back kitchen, hugged her mother, and they laughed in a low voice. Mom, you're early. Dad is in heaven, he must be happy. Hongwen and Jiming also joined in the fun. Hongwen was in a baggy suit, holding a cup of cappuccino and teasing, Laoli, this wedding is exactly your style, low-key and domineering. It's worth it for me to witness your transformation from an empty boy to this. Jiming pushed up his glasses and handed over a bouquet of flowers. Mr. Li, Miss Jing Qi, everything is ready. I'm blocking the media. This is a private moment. There were not many guests, just about 10 people, a few partners from the fitness center, Ming Qi's neighbor aunt, and a few old employees of the Li Group. Everyone sat around, and the aroma of coffee in the air was like an invisible thread, stringing together everyone's smiling faces. There was no embarrassment, just warm whispers and the clink of cups and plates. Li Wei was wearing a simple white shirt, with his sleeves rolled up to reveal his strong forearms, the result of training. He held Jing Qi's hand and walked into the arch. She was wearing a light gray dress, a small flower in her short hair, and a smile as bright as the morning light. The pastor is a retired sports coach with a loud voice. Today, we witnessed the vows of Li Wei and Jing Qi. In the fragrance of this coffee, they promise eternity. Li Wei spoke first, with a steady voice and his eyes locked on Jing Qi. Jing Qi, from the day you pulled me on the treadmill, I knew that you were not just a coach, but my light. I used to be like a cup of black coffee without sugar, bitter and empty. I only focused on making money in my empire and ignored the emptiness in my heart. You used sweat and encouragement to ignite my fighting spirit and help me get up from the fall and from the top of the mountain of fear. Walk to the marathon finish line. My career is stable and my family is harmonious. Now, I promise, no matter the wind or rain, I will accompany you step by step to balance your life and never let go, just like running. His words were filled with the frankness of a Shanghai man, and a thought flashed in his mind, looking back on this journey, from the floor-to-ceiling windows of the CBD to the river breeze on the Bund, from the tit-for-tat at the dinner party to the soup stew in the alley, all transformations are because of her. He held her hand tightly and the ring slipped between his fingers, the cool metal feeling like the weight of promise. Jing Qi's eyes were bright, tears welling up in her eyes. She took a deep breath, and the hot coffee hit her face, making her voice stronger. Li Wei, you are my student, but you have become my hero. When I first saw your domineering look, I thought you were just another lost elite. But during the training, your persistence and your openness made me see my own shadow, the girl who quit her job to pursue her dream. You helped me expand the center and realize my mission of helping more people, from small stores to inspirational brands. We built it together. No matter the business crisis or family pressure, you always have my back. Now, I pledge, love is like a sport, inspiring each other and balancing passion and life. I will run with you forever, she said, wiping the corners of her eyes. Meng Qi listened in the audience, tears finally falling down. She wiped it with a handkerchief, and the Shanghai aunt's voice trembled slightly. Silly children, Mom is happy. People around applauded, and Hongwen whistled, perfect. Laoli, your oath is as inspiring as an advertisement. Jiming nodded, and his eyes turned red, witnessing the whole process, from assistant to now. I am touched. The wedding was not a grand affair, just a coffee-flavored cake with running shoes and heart-shaped patterns painted on the buttercream. The aroma filled the air, the sourness of the Blue Mountains mixed with the sweetness of the milk foam, and everyone chatted while eating. Meng Qi took Li Wei's hand and said in a soft voice, Boy, from the awkwardness of the dinner to the warmth today, my mother's tears were not in vain. You have transformed, you are no longer an empty CEO, you are a passionate son. Jing Qi has you, mother can rest assured. Li Wei smiled and gave her a piece of cake. Auntie, thank you. I learned to keep the family from you. Hongwen came over and raised his glass. Old Li, the empire is more stable. After the acquisition, Li's market value doubled and team morale was high. You are an athlete, take the lead in running, and everyone will follow suit. In the future, our inspirational fitness brand will be promoted globally. Ximing added, yes, Mr. Li and Jing Qi's brand, passionate starting line, has opened 3 branches. Elites flocked to us, and your story became a living advertisement. As the sun sets, the lights in the store turn on, and a warm yellow shines on everyone's face. Jing Qi and Li Wei slipped to the small balcony in the backyard. The river breeze was blowing gently and the fragrance of coffee was still lingering on their noses. Jing Qi leaned in his arms and whispered, Li Wei, looking back, this journey has been amazing. You went from a domineering man who controlled the conference room to a passionate man running on the bund. I went from a coach who worked alone to a brand that helped countless people find themselves. Hosted. Love and sports are like wings, allowing us to fly in balance. A stable career, a warm family, and everything is perfect. Li Wei kissed her forehead, and his heart surged. Yes, from that cup of bitter coffee to the sweet aftertaste, he has won everything. The shackles of emptiness are broken and replaced by abundant fire, inspiring each other and guarding a balanced life. Hongwen's testimony, Ximing's support, and Meng Qi's tears are all reminders, this is not the end, but an endless starting line. When night fell and the guests dispersed, everyone was reluctant to leave. Meng Qi hugged Jing Qi and patted Li Wei on the shoulder, go home and continue living tomorrow. Mom is waiting for her grandson. Hongwen and Ximing finally left. Hongwen blinked, Old Li, where are you going on your honeymoon? Don't forget to bring me, the matchmaker's share of the money. Laughter echoed in the streets. Li Wei held Jing Qi's hand and walked into the night wind. The lights of the city are bright and the tall buildings remain the same, but in his heart, he is already home. From then on, their story is like a cup of coffee that never gets cold, its aroma lasts forever and its passion never dies.